further afield. The Israeli military says it's keeping troops at 5 southern Lebanese posts despite today's withdrawal deadline. Lebanon says it will consider any remaining Israeli presence on its lands an occupation and said it has the right to use any means to ensure an Israeli withdrawal. The United Nations has called Israel's actions a violation of the terms of the ceasefire, which ended the war with Hezbollah. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar made his own allegations.
We are completing the withdrawal despite the violations of the agreement. The most basic violation is the presence of Hezbollah activists south of the Litani River. Once Lebanon fully implements its side of the deal, there will be no need to hold these points.
Recapping the top story for this hour, PwC senior economist Christy Viljoen says the decrease in the fourth quarter unemployment number is positive news, however warns that the economy needs to grow by 3% to create meaningful jobs. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour. For SFM News, I'm Eva Chipa.
And coming up in your sports this hour, Amazulu out to extend unbeaten streak, Schwartzel and Grace to play at the SA Open, and Wada says that Sinner case miles away from doping. More details at 3:30.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OutSurance.
We're in the security industry. Every month we save 1,488 rand with OutSurance. Just having made the switch from our previous service provider to OutSurance has allowed us to put another vehicle onto our fleet.
For your business insurance, contact OutSurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The Mangaung Metro Municipality is hosting an investment summit to bring investment to Bloemfontein. The summit will take place on 19 and 20 February at the City Hall and aims to bring together different economic role players from across the country and abroad. To be part of the summit or for more info, call 073 184 8972 or send an email to summit@mangaung.co.za. Mangaung, at the heart of it all.
The whispers in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care. At SAFM, we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection, and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness, and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other, and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady and you are my man.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Whether it's rain in some parts of South Africa or sunshine in others or drought elsewhere and hope for rain at another place, whichever it is, welcome to the show. Welcome to the National Pulse. My name's Ashraf Garda. 3 hours of the National Pulse starting now, and it gives you a chance as well, first up, to consider what for you would be the biggest issue that would actually move the National Pulse, because you certainly drive the conversations that matter, but you have your own opinions about it. What do you think it's going to be? I know the budget speech is on tomorrow, and that's an important one, so maybe let me test this out with you right away. So the budget speech is on tomorrow, 2 o'clock, right? And you know the budget speech reflects the priorities of government spending, which reflects government priorities. Okay, so with that in mind, there's a lot of things that the Minister of Finance will talk about. I'm not going to waste time talking about that now, excepting this. What's the one thing that you would be looking out for coming out of the budget speech? Everybody has a different priority they're going to look out for. There's one thing that matters to you more than most. What's that one thing? Let me hear it from you. 086 000 2032. I'll take your calls later, but I'll take your WhatsApp, text, or voice notes right away. 0614 104 107. And as always, you can tweet it out, tag SFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda, on the on the X platform using the hashtag The National Pulse. Well, while we consider all of that, there's lots to talk about, including in the Global Watch, ongoing tensions between South Africa and the USA. And now, you may have heard about it, leading congressmen from the US effectively putting forward a recommendation, a proposal, a request to the president of the USA to say, stop the AGOA benefits to South Africa and perhaps even consider breaking off all diplomatic ties. How did we get to that? That comes up just now. But let's start about how did we get to that with regard to the ANC, to the point where the ANC itself, the National Working Committee, has had to dig deep into the goings-on in Gauteng and KZN and make some serious and significant changes. In fact, those changes have been done. So let's find out exactly what has happened with Ntebo Mokobo, the SABC News senior political reporter who's covered that story. Ntebo, appreciate you joining us here on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to the listeners.
Much appreciated. Right. So let's talk about, first of all, broad view. Changes have been made, right? But what are the most significant changes?
Well, you would recall, the changes have been in the offing for some time, and indeed, ultimately, those changes were effected in terms of changing or reconfiguring the two provinces as the NEC and the NWC directed. And that reconfiguration comes with the dissolution or disbandment. Effectively, these two provinces are disbanded. And the disbandment means that then you need to then come up with a new leadership in the province that would steer those provinces in the right direction, that the ANC would say, indeed, the party will sort of regain its lost ground in those provinces. In Gauteng, for instance, the entire PEC, the entire provincial leadership has been disbanded. And of course, Panyaza Lesufi was retained as the convener together with the former Johannesburg mayor and the former regional chairperson of the ANC, that is Amos Masondo, who at some point was there at the NCOP as chair on behalf of the ANC. So Masondo and Lesufi will be the convener of these two provinces. And of course, they will be helped by Hope Papo. Hope Papo, you would recall that at some point he was the provincial secretary. He was the MEC in Gauteng, is now in parliament as one of the ANC MP, but he will be overseeing the province together with the two gentlemen, Lesufi and Masondo. And of course, if you go to KwaZulu-Natal, you would recall that, its former MEC and its former deputy chairperson, that is Michael Mabuya Kulu, has now been roped in as the convener. And of course, as the coordinator, and of course, Jeff Hadebe, the one who used to head the policy, the ANC policy, is now the convener in KwaZulu-Natal. Okay. So effectively, that then means that the two provincial secretaries are not retained. That is TK Ngiza in Gauteng, and of course, in KwaZulu-Natal is Bekim Tolo. But the reconfiguration or the dissolution or the disbandment doesn't really affect or doesn't really impact on government, because Panyaza Lesufi remains the provincial premier. And of course, in KwaZulu-Natal, Siboniso Duma remains the MEC. So it doesn't really affect the running of the provincial government, especially when it comes to governance as opposed to politics.
So let's stay with that. When you say it doesn't affect the provincial government, that is my important question to you. So why does it not? Explain that.
Because initially, that's what the Secretary General Fikile Mbalula said, that anything that the ANC is doing, it's not going to impact on government. Because sometimes when the infightings are happening in the ANC, they tend to affect government. You would recall that, at some point, some municipalities, especially in Gauteng, in Johannesburg, Kuruleni, as well as Tshwane, when there were those political machinations and the political tug of war, those wars affected the service delivery. And they want to insulate a government from all those political bickerings. If the ANC has got its own problems, the ANC has to sort out its own problems, as opposed to now dragging government into this thing. That's why Mbalula at some point was steadfast on his pronouncement that this thing is not going to affect government. And indeed, the provincial premier is retained. Panyaza Lesufi will remain the premier, but he has lost everything in terms of him being the chairperson of Gauteng, because now if you reconfigure or if you would disband or dissolve the provinces, then you need to come up with a provincial task team. The provincial task teams names the names of those who will constitute the entire provincial task teams of these respective provinces will be out this afternoon, because at 5 o'clock there's going to be a virtual meeting where the Secretary General then communicates the outcomes of the NWC in terms of who should be heading what and what are they going to be doing, and the scope of their work over the past 3 months or so, where they're going to come up with now a formidable structure after that period.
Okay, so lots of things happening, but so what for you has been the most significant? Let me start with the two secretaries, right? Interesting that both provinces, and we know the provinces underperformed, both secretaries effectively have been removed.
You see, when you are a Secretary General or a provincial secretary,
Yeah.
you like the engine of the organization in a province, in a region, and even nationally. If anything goes amiss in the province, in the region, and even nationally, you're the one, the buck stops with you. You're the one who should account. You're the one who should have seen the something that we are not heading in the right direction here. The secretaries are the ones who are really running the province politically on behalf of the ANC. So those are the people who should have accounted. Those are the people who should have seen the red flags that, in fact, the ANC is now in hell in these two provinces. And some of them, if you ask them, they will tell you that, the writing was on the wall that the ANC will lose elections in these two provinces, especially in Gauteng. The SACP at some point even said that, 2 years before elections, the SACP told the ANC in 2022 that we are going to lose elections and we're going to dip below 40%, even less. We're going to lose nationally. And even in some provinces, they're going to lose. But it seems some people didn't really want to buy into that. So the two provincial secretaries are the ones who are seen to be the people who really let the ANC down in those two provinces, without singling them out, but they're the ones who should have seen that things are not going well for the ANC in these two provinces.
Course, yeah.
And sometimes people are saying the retention of Panyaza Lesufi. You would recall that, the ANC at some point was the SACP was very outspoken when it comes to the removal of Panyaza Lesufi, because they said to the ANC, you dare remove Panyaza Lesufi, because what you would be doing, it would be an instruction from the DS Helen Zille, who said that Panyaza Lesufi must be removed. So I think the ANC was a bit cautious in terms of dealing really with Panyaza Lesufi, because they know that the ANC, the SACP has been saying that Helen Zille instructed them to remove. If they remove, it would be Helen Zille's instruction.
Did you get a sense then, particularly with Panyaza Lesufi, considering he's the Premier of Gauteng, now he's part of this joint convening of the committee, but also the former chair now of Gauteng, the fact that he was seen by many people as an impediment to Gauteng being part of the greater, and the city of Joburg being part of the government of national unity, he had to be removed at all costs. So the fact that he has not, right, does that suggest what? That there are powers at play here who are making bigger decisions, or do you sense that there are differences and splinters within, but certainly somebody's opinion is holding sway here?
I think there are serious powers at play here, because if you look at what the SACP said, and everyone has been saying that indeed Panyaza Lesufi would be removed because Helen Zille was unyielding when it comes to the dealing with Panyaza Lesufi by the president. He said the president must remove Panyaza Lesufi. So the ANC was a bit cautious, because they know the ANC really knew that if that happens, that would have caused serious political ructions within the alliance. The alliance that is very needed when you go to the 2026 local government elections. And you would recall that, at some point the ANC said SACP is contesting its elections independently into the future. And that issue, it still has to come to the ANC and WC. There has to be a decision. They're talking about a meeting that will happen. That meeting hasn't happened. But in that meeting, that's when the ANC will be, the SACP will be reading its riot act to the ANC in terms of how things have been happening in the ANC and how that has cost them elections as a collective. So there was serious power play. And then the ANC, when it was making this decision, it was very cautious of the fact that if they remove Panyaza Lesufi is an SACP member. If they remove him, it will be because maybe there is this political ructions between the SACP and the ANC in terms of the reconfiguration of the alliance. And of course, even some of the things that they've been saying, that they can go to elections together. But when it comes to the deployment, then the ANC will decide, and can even decide in bringing people who have never campaigned for the ANC, people who had steadfast when they were during their campaign that they want to see the ANC out of power. But today they are governing with them. So who's fooling who here?
Well, there we are. Here's the last thing. I've noted the position of the former Joburg Mayor Amos Masondo now as part of this joint convenership of Gauteng provincial, that is. And the same then with regard to Jeff Khadebe. So both of them, I'm reluctant to use the word veterans, but both of them have been around and are senior statesmen, certainly within the party. How significant is that?
It's very significant, Ashraf. I mean, if you look at Jeff Khadebe, for instance, he was the head of ANC policy. And at some point, he's been a minister, he's been in the NEC for some time. And those are the people who don't have really vested interest in terms of who really becomes the chairperson in Gauteng. They don't really care a lot about who becomes the provincial chairperson. The only thing that they care about is how do they come about a formidable ANC that will be really alive to the realities on the ground in terms of the sufferings of the people. Amos Masondo was the regional chairperson in Johannesburg. At some point, he became the mayor. He was one of those who were very trusted politicians during the Mbeki administration. And of course, he's known. He's been around in this ANC circles.
It's almost like going to the Council of the Elders, isn't it? Trust them.
He belongs to the Council of the Elders because I think it's an octogenarian. It's around 8 years now. Right. And those are the people that you can really go to in terms of wisdom in the ANC.
Well, wisdom is maybe what they need. Ntebo Mokobo, thank you for your time. We'll certainly look out for what happens after 5 o'clock today. And if needs be, we'll certainly going to update the audience with that story. Ntebo Mokobo is the SABC News senior political reporter. Appreciate your time. Right, quick reaction from you in terms of those pronouncements regarding the ANC's provincial, Gauteng and KZN. What's your thoughts about that and the budget tomorrow? This is the National Pulse.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
I'm in tourism. I'm running a guest house here. When I switched over to OUTsurance, it was very simple and convenient. I used the savings to subsidize my solar installations. Switching to OUTsurance was one of the best decisions I made insurance-wise, yes.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover. Or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
V up your February with great value deals from Vodacom Business. Meet the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra featuring integrated Galaxy AI. Get it on a Red Business 1.5 gig plan for only 1,539 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal. Add 69 Rand extra per month and get the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 eSIM. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices can make our children sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, which could lead to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they age. We must protect them from drinks high in sugar. Demand a stricter health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, let's talk about South Africa, USA. Goodness, there's not a day without something or the other going on. And if the two at government level don't do much, there's always activists in America and in South Africa that says something, as we witnessed over the weekend. But in the latest developments now, you may have seen this, the issue of the Congress that plays a very important role in terms of policy and execution in the USA. They've put forward a proposal, recommendation to the president of the USA that the issue of AGOA, which is the African Growth and Opportunities Act, that's where we all, as countries, or the African countries, sub-Saharan countries, score majorly with trade agreements. That must be removed. South Africa must be removed. And then there's also been a call that diplomatic ties with South Africa must be cut. I mean, it's as dramatic as that, right? So what happens next? How did we get to this situation? But perhaps significantly from a South African point of view, what should they be doing now? Pearl Matibe is with me, the Washington, D.C.-based geopolitical analyst with expertise in foreign policy. Pearl, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you. So, first of all, and I know we've discussed a lot of this in the last few weeks in terms of how did we get to ourselves in this situation. Perhaps the most important question now is what should South Africa do next?
Thank you, Ashraf. That's an excellent question. So, Ashraf, just for context, right? I covered the first Trump administration. So this is the second time that I am covering the White House in his second term. So I think it's important to understand the geopolitics here in order to be able to understand the questions that you're asking. So, number one, the U.S.-South Africa relations are indeed at a pivotal moment, intersecting high-stakes global geopolitics. This is not just about South Africa, okay? It's from AGOA to BRICS and from Washington to Beijing. Let me try to break it down for you.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make, there are 5 things that I think are really important in order to understand the geopolitics of what is happening. Number one is South Africa does stand right now at a geopolitical crossroads, and if the players who are in South Africa's foreign relations, as well as those who are reaching out to the Trump administration, don't really understand what that crossroads means, then that will it'll be a factor in whether they're successful or not successful in handling Washington. Because right now you've got Washington on one side and you've got Beijing on the other. That's point number one. Point number two is, if AGOA is revoked, it won't just be about trade, okay? It'll be about South Africa's place in the global power game, because it is between these two great power it's like a great power competition that is going on between the United States and China. And that is why Taiwan is very important. And that's my third point. In Washington, the Taiwan issue isn't just about diplomacy. It's a front line. It's a battle front line between the United States and the China rivalry. Okay, you've got to remember on this point that the flashpoint is that South Africa's decision regarding Taiwan's representative office has triggered strong reactions in Washington. And you see in that letter from the congressman that they wrote to Trump, they did specify about Taiwan and what the United States wanted to do in terms of Taiwan's embassy there, right? So there is this support here from these House of Representatives who want a freeze and potentially remove South Africa, as you quite rightly said, from AGOA. And the implications here is that it could lead to economic and trade disruptions for South Africa, while also reshaping the diplomatic standing within Washington. The fourth point I want to make is about BRICS. There's a lot of BRICS tension that has been growing both here in Washington and around the world as the global world order begins to change. And so South Africa may be feeling the heat, but from both sides, because there's pressure to South Africa from China. There's pressure to South Africa from Washington. The question is, how is South Africa going to play that foreign affairs puzzle? Okay, and the last point I really want to push here, stress, is that Trump's second term is reshaping alliances. Whatever country decide to ally itself with which country then places you whether you're going to get cozy with Trump or not, or free or not so cozy with him. Okay. And South Africa is right now in the spotlight. You understand? Well, so that's why I said these are the key issues.
Well, thanks for that. So if we then agree that it's increasingly being an us versus them scenario globally, right? Then what should South Africa be doing now?
This is the thing. It's going to be interesting for us to watch how savvy or how strategic South Africa decides to defend its own national interests. And this may buttress. They may decide, okay, these are South African interests, and they may dig in. But also, to the extent that they dig in, they've got to then decide, is it worth going against whatever it is Trump may decide globally to stem them from? We already saw the new U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, already tweet out a couple of weeks ago that even though South Africa is holding the G20 and hosting the G20, that the United States has decided they are not coming. Rubio has already said he is not going to attend. And that was based on certain aspects that are regarding diversity, equality, and inclusion. And the diversity, equality, inclusion, those three words are words that in the second Trump administration, he is doing away with across the entire United States government. So anything that has to do with diversity, equity, and inclusion, the second Trump administration doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And that was one additional reason what Rubio said, that for that very reason, he says he's not coming to the G20.
Okay. So that one, of course, comes up this week, but he's not there.
That may change.
But the G20 proper is later in the year, but I see the one that's the meeting coming up this week. There will be a U.S. representative in South Africa in the next few days, so we know that, right? Maybe just the last thing, in terms of the political game that you spoke about, because we're on to news time now, but in terms of the political game that we speak about, for some people, it's not so much South Africa's domestic policy. We can debate some of the issues you've just raised, but more importantly, the foreign policy. You mentioned the China story, and of course the issue of Palestine and Israel. And for many others who praise South Africa's foreign policy, there are equally others who are saying South Africa's got it all wrong because they've put at risk their economic well-being. What's your thoughts on that in 30 seconds?
In 30 seconds, you've got to remember that just this last week, Benjamin Netanyahu was at the White House meeting with President Trump. So that did place additional pressure, right? South Africa must have come up on the agenda. So you ask about what comes next. Washington's next move is going to be, will Trump heed the congressional calls to revoke AGOA? Trump is going to take a hard stance, right? And also these tensions between Elon Musk and Julius Malema and all these other things, those are just going to add to the tensions. South Africa's leverage, okay, what does they have? Pretoria could attempt renegotiations, but if BRICS alignment complicates the process. So yes, this is much, much bigger than AGOA. It is a geopolitical thing. So the geopolitical stakes, this is about South Africa's long-term strategic positioning. It's about how South Africa is in a position.
I wouldn't want to be the president, and I wouldn't want to be the Minister of International Relations, Pearl Matibe. Thank you for your time. Lots to consider coming out of that, and perhaps I'll leave it to the audience to engage with me in terms of if they were the president, what would they do regarding our geopolitics? Appreciated that. Let's get to the news headlines. Here's Iba Chipa.
Thanks, Ashraf. In your news making headlines for this hour, 2 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police in Inanda in the north of Durban. In a statement, KZN police say they were acting on information from the community about these suspects they believed were responsible for house robberies and other crimes in the area. In other news, PwC senior economist Christy Viljoen says the decrease in the fourth quarter unemployment number is positive news. However, the economy needs to grow by 3% to create meaningful jobs. And lastly, the Israeli military says it's keeping troops at 5 southern Lebanese posts despite today's withdrawal deadline. I have more on these and other stories at the top of the hour. For SFM News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, an update from Gautrain with no trains running between Rosebank and Park Station due to an illegal drilling issue. A replacement bus service is in operation. Winnie Mandela Drive southbound in Bryanston has a crash reported at Ballycare Drive. The R101 has a crash near Warmanstal Road. In Fourways, the N1 southbound is queuing approaching the Winnie Mandela Drive exit due to a truck crash on the northbound side, and the N1 northbound has a truck crash reported after the Winnie Mandela Drive exit. In KZN, on the N2, sporadic community unrest north of Pongola, so expect delays and diversions during the protests. Please do check before travel. The N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle after the M41 Gateway exit. The N3 eastbound in Camperdown has a stationary truck near Mlaws Road, and the N2 is where a pedestrian crash is reported on the link to the N3 East at Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound is queuing towards Rhodes Drive. Batencroft Street outbound slow moving towards the elevated freeway. Victoria Road outbound is slow moving through Woodstock. On Spine Road in Mitchell's Plain, a fatal pedestrian crash reported near Marydale Avenue, and Strand Road eastbound in Stickland is slow moving towards the R300 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Tommy, you did tell us watch out for the Nedbank Cup quarter-final draw last night.
Yeah.
It was made, but there's reaction, right?
There's a couple of reaction from last night. A very good afternoon to you and our listeners. Well, Soweto Giants, Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs have been dealt with tough fixtures in the Nedbank Cup quarterfinals, with both sides facing away trips. The Buccaneers, who are aiming to go one step further in defending their crown for a third record time in a row, were drawn up against SuperSport United, and this will be the third meeting between the two sides this season, with the Pirates having won both matches in the MTN 8 and Betway Premiership. And striker Tshegofatso Mabaza says that their hunger to make history is what is driving them.
Yes, difficult encounter, difficult draw for us. But we knew that there is no easy team in the last 8. It's a cup competition, and I think on the day, who wants it more will be the team to go through. We've played them twice already this season, and we've managed to beat them twice. But we know that this one's going to be a completely different ball game, and I think the boys will be ready, as well as the coaches as well. We'll prepare well and hard for this game, and hopefully go all the way in the Nedbank Cup to defend our title.
Well, there's a couple of fixtures to look forward to today, and one is Kaizer Chiefs hosting SuperSport United as they look to get into the top 4 on the PSL table. Amakosi will be without the services of central midfielder Sambielo Zwane, who is suspended for this match after picking up 4 yellow cards, while Matsatsantsa will be without injured forward Bradley Grobler, while it is yet to be seen if Christian Saile will face his parent club. But that's not the only action today. There's also TS Galaxy taking on Stellenbosch. Chipa United are away to Cape Town City, and Polokwane City hosts Magezi. Then elsewhere, Everton's new stadium at Bramley Moordock welcomed 10,000 fans for a test event featuring an under-18 friendly match against Wigan Athletic at the Premier League club, prepared to say goodbye to Goodison Park at the end of the season. Now, construction of the over 52,000-seater arena took 4 years and close to £800 million. That's around $1 billion, and it's also set to host matches at Euro 2028. And the stadium's last competitive game will take place on the 18th of May when Everton hosts Southampton. In golf, SA Golf duo Charles Schwartzel and Brandon Grace will tee up at the SA Open at the Durban Country Club next week. They will join defending champion Dean Burmester in a strong field that also includes in-form Sunshine Tour player Daniel van Donder, Sean Norris, and rising stars such as Robin Williams and Ryan van Velsen. Now, the event has a purse of around $1.5 million. That's 28 million rand, and is co-sanctioned by the Sunshine Tour and DP World Tour. In tennis, the World Anti-Doping Agency has come to the defense of the 3-month ban handed to Yannick Sinner, saying that this case is miles from doping. Sinner tested positive for costeball in March last year, although he was not suspended by the International Tennis Integrity Agency. Now, WADA had appealed to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, looking for a 2-year ban, but announced on Saturday a shorter suspension had been agreed. And the agency says that the scientific feedback that they received was that this could not be a case of intentional doping, including microdosing. And finally, the venue plan for the 2032 Brisbane Olympics will be unveiled late next month. Brisbane was awarded the Games back in 2021, but political roles, particularly over the main stadium and the venue for the athletics, have resulted in continuing uncertainty over the final plans. A panel appointed by Queensland State Premier David last November to conduct a second review of the venue options will report on the 8th of March, and their findings revealed to the public along with the government's response on the 25th of March. On that note, it is a wrap from my side for now.
Okay, perfect. And rain's affecting some things, but you have no outdoor sport right now, right? Nothing in the daytime. Thank goodness for that. Okay, more sports in an hour.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
V up your February with great value deals from Vodacom Business. Get the new Samsung Galaxy A16 on a Red Business 1.5 gig plan for 379 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal. Add 29 Rand extra per month over 24 months and get the Samsung Galaxy Fit 3. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom Business.
In the Arena is a docu-series that takes an in-depth look at the life and career of the legendary tennis player Serena Williams, offering a behind-the-scenes glimpse into her journey, both on and off the court. It explores her rise to tennis dominance, challenges, and personal experiences. Do not miss out on a great story of incredible impact. Catch In the Arena on Saturdays at 3 p.m. on SABC3. Alternatively, at 9 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturdays and Thursdays. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, I'll take your calls, I'll take your WhatsApp, text or voice notes. I'll read out some of your tweets in the next few minutes, okay, as we increase the audience engagement. But before we get to that, well, let me just throw this to you. First of all, the budget speech tomorrow. Just give me one sentence, just one, not 10 sentences, one sentence in terms of what for you is the one thing you would be looking out for. I don't mean overall expectation, just one thing that matters to you. What are you looking for in the budget speech? I want to know. Then the conversation regarding the ANC and the National Working Committee about Gauteng as well as KZN. What do you make of those outcomes of that? And then the ongoing issue between South Africa and the USA. Can you believe it? Where do we go next with that in terms of actual solutions? Well, what about South Africa's employment rate or unemployment rate? It's always about the unemployment rate. Now, the latest news is that the unemployment rate drops to 31.9%, which, put another way, means the more people are employed. That's according to Stats SA's latest data that says that the number of employed people now have increased by 132,000 people. Let's get the thoughts of Solly Molai, who is the acting DDG responsible for population and social stats. Solly, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting to the National Pulse.
Afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you. I suppose it's an obvious thing. I mean, I would say it's good news, but is it good news, meaning you look for, at small subsidies, good news, but do I take it that you look for bigger pictures in this?
Thank you so much. I think from our side, we are looking at these numbers and we're seeing that there is a movement in terms of the number of persons who are employed. And for the first time, I think in South Africa, now we're moving into the 17 million mark. So if you recall, before COVID, we were sitting around 16.4 million persons who are employed. Now we are sitting around 17.1 million. And I think for us as statisticians, we will see in the next subsequent quarters whether how many jobs are we going to create. Obviously, this has to be read in relation to the increase or the economy, how the economy is growing. And in the next few weeks or so, we'll be releasing the quarter 4 of the GDP, and it will give us a sense of how economy in 2024 is performed.
Absolutely. Well, therefore, what do you then attribute this increase or decrease, the unemployment rate decrease, increase of employment by 132,000 people? What do you attribute that to?
Okay, so let's look at it in this way. So let's start with the industries. So if you look at from the industries, there are 4 industries that we're seeing positive. Finance, manufacturing, private, household, and transport. So finance, it contributed the most with 232,000. But this is 4 out of the 10. So the 6 that we are seeing a loss of jobs, it's your community and social services. This is where now you're getting your teachers, your social workers, those are working in the health industry. So we're seeing a lot of job losses there in quarter 4 of 2024, around 63,000. Then trade, it was quite interesting one, because when you look at trade and you double click into trade and look at it, you see that the restaurants and hotels, it had increased in terms of the jobs, but then overall it had a minus of 48,000. And construction is one of the industries that I think from the labor force survey we're seeing that construction is not creating a lot of jobs, including mining. And then mining, you link it with the and agriculture. If you link it with the provinces that performed well in terms of job creation, you see that Limpopo, Northwest, and Free State are the ones out of the 9 that had a negative. And you know that Northwest is driven by manufacturing, by mining, and Limpopo, it's where you're getting your agriculture. So when we look at industries and then we overlay by provinces, we're seeing Western Cape, KZN, and Gauteng are still leading in terms of job creation.
Okay. And in terms of, you mentioned certain sectors, right? Beyond just the sectors that you've mentioned, were there sectors where you found there were decreases in employment?
Yes. There were sectors that we saw that there were job losses, basically. So agriculture, like I said, agriculture, we're seeing a minus 11,000 jobs. Okay. Utilities, we're seeing a minus 17,000. Mining, as I already mentioned, mining and construction also. And I think mining and construction over time, we've seen that it's actually not performing well in terms of jobs, creating jobs. And if you look at the sectors, as you mentioned, your formal sector, it's in South Africa, I think is the biggest one that is creating jobs. It's accounting to almost 68% of the jobs. Informal sector is only creating about 3.3 million jobs. And private household followed by 1.1 million. And agriculture sitting around 924,000. So that is the sector in terms of understanding the sector of total employment in South Africa.
And the private households, when you talk about jobs, would that be domestic workers or something else?
Yeah. Yes, it's largely driven by your domestic workers, your gardener, and all the helpers at the home that are assisting us. Yes.
All right. Just finally, is there, besides what you've told me already, is there another trend that you've seen emerge that you think needs to be amplified?
Yes, 2 quick ones. Firstly, I think over time we've seen that if you look at unemployment in South Africa, you look at it by race, and then you overlay it by the gender. We are seeing that Black African women, they are continue to be most vulnerable with unemployment. And their employment rate is sitting around 38% compared to the unemployment rate of 31.9%. So this is something that we've picked up over time, and it's still something that we're also seeing now, even in this court. The other one is the youth unemployment. It is still a big one here in terms of unemployment rate. For 15 to 34 unemployment rate, it's higher compared to the older group, and is sitting around 14.6%. Then remember the unemployment rate that we've been talking about, it's the official one. So if you want to look at the expanded unemployment rate, meaning that you're taking into account those who are discouraged, work seekers, which is about 3.5 million, and also those who said they have other reasons for not searching for work. If you combine that with the 8 million, now you're having around 12.3 million unemployment. Then now your unemployment rate is sitting now at 49.9% instead of 31.9%. So those are the context of something that I wanted to share with them.
Okay, and maybe I said lastly, let's do another lastly. On the issue of those who are unemployed, right? Are you able to tell me that are there situations where people are unemployed because the sectors need them, but they're unable to employ them because they're not skilled enough to operate in those sectors? So let's take the example of doctors. There may be a shortage of medical doctors, but there's not enough doctors in a country. So that means they still remain unemployed because there's not enough doctors. The converse applies, which we know is true in South Africa, that there are doctors, they need to be placed, but there's no money to place them. Did that come through as well?
So from the surveys, what we are seeing is that when you look at the graduates, and this is where the doctors will be. Yes, the graduates, their unemployment rate is low compared to anyone with less matric or matric. Because if you look at it in that context, you see that even though their unemployment rate is sitting about, and this I'm talking about official unemployment rate. If you're talking about expanded one, then definitely it would probably be more than 10%. It's still less than 10%, but you're still having a number of South Africans who've got matric and less matric. Their official unemployment rate is sitting around 33% and 38%. What does it tell us? It tells us that having a matric is going to be difficult for you to get job, and having a graduate, your unemployment rate is lower. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are not going to be part of those who are not working. And again, as I already said, in terms of if you look at the sectors that have performed, and you look at doctors, you will find them under your community and service. And this is where we're seeing job losses. I mean, they had the biggest job losses there, around 63,000. So I think the long and short of it is just telling us that the economy is not growing in a rate in which it's creating jobs.
Yeah.
And if I may give you a stats quickly, now that we have done a full year of 2024, you look at the total number of jobs that were created in 2024, we're sitting around 354,000. So if you're saying that this is behind the thinking behind the view of saying that the economy grew by less than 1%, we managed to create 354,000. So if economy continue to grow like that, you are most likely to create jobs along this range. And you know that our national development plan is saying by 2030 we need to be sitting at 6% unemployment rate. So it is something that I think, as we are sharing the data with the policymakers, is something that forms data say
very important. And all the more it gives us even greater context to understand and to read into tomorrow's budget speech. It could give us telling indicators. There's Solly Molai. Thanks for that, for those insights. The acting DDG responsible for population and social stats. Stats SA giving us those figures: 31.9% unemployment rate. That's a decrease, by the way, of by 132,000 people. That's good news, isn't it? What's your pulse rate telling you?
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1998, 500 grams of sugar cost about 3 Rand. Now it's about 20 Rand. There's nothing sweet about how the cost of living has gone up. But even in times like these, Outsurance is committed to saving you money on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 for a quick and easy way to save. Let's hear what Rosemary has to say about the saving on her 2019 Ford Figo.
I phoned into Outsurance to get a quote. They were super efficient, super quick. I'm saving 421 Rand a month. I'll stick my neck out and tell them to phone Outsurance.
Enjoy life-saving services like Help It Out with 24/7 access to panic assistance, roadside assistance, and home assistance with just a tap on the app. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. Limits apply. T's and C's online.
With Ford's Blue Sky offers, get a new Ranger XL from just $5,899 per month, including our optional service plan, only when financed through Ford Credit. 10% deposit, prime list 4.75%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers, where our Ford family guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. Ford Credit is a registered credit provider and an authorized financial services provider. T&Cs apply.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, I have a feel for the National Pulse, but what about you? What's your pulse rate telling you? Let's get the thoughts of Chaka in Bloemfontein. Go ahead, Chaka.
Hi.
Yeah, very good indeed. What's your point?
I have it. I'm responding to a lady who talks about the need for us for a strategic direction.
Yeah, Pearl Matibe, yes.
Yeah, in the light of what is happening. I don't think we need to worry about getting the strategic direction. In any case, we should be having our own strategic direction. It should be in place most of the time. So we shouldn't start grabbing, things that are passing. I mean, Donald Trump will be there for 4 years, and after 4 years he disappears and something else comes in. Then we keep changing all the time. I think we should formulate our own foreign relations policy without really.
But that is but having your own policy is strategic. It's exactly what she's telling you to do. Whether you follow the right policy or not, she's saying be very strategic about it.
Yeah, but the impression I get is that our policy should be influenced about the events of what Trump is saying. That it should, in a way, nest the feeling of Donald Trump.
Okay, no, I don't think she said that at all. I mean, to be very honest with you, what she explained is the U.S. relationship with us, geopolitically, and of course the issue of China. And she did say, whichever way we go, we must understand there's like repercussions on the other side. She did not say that, in fact, we need to now effectively dump China and dump BRICS and make sure that we appease the USA or else. She didn't say that. Shaka, let's leave it at that. Thanks for your comments anyway. Let's get to Musina. We've got JCK on the line. Hi, JCK.
Hi, Ashraf. Are you well?
Yeah, very good indeed. Go for it. Let's hear what you have to say.
Ashraf, there is something that boggles my mind with our government. South African government, they know the problems and the challenges that we are facing, but they're failing to address it. I mean, for an example, they know that the problem of load sharing is illegal connection, but they're not going head to head with it. And they know that the hijacked buildings, they are using illegal connection of electricity. But to go head to head with it, they're not doing it. Is it a matter maybe they are gaining from there? There are some people from the government who are benefiting from that? Or is it a matter of incompetence or charlatans? I'll hear from you if you've got an answer.
Well, I don't quite have an answer, but there's so many things about government that's so contradictory, right? So perhaps if somebody understands it even better than you and I, let them bring it up, okay? JCK, you've certainly put it on the agenda. Thank you for that for now, right? Okay, let's get to some of the other comments that you've put forward, and I've asked you to respond to a range of issues, but it's completely up to you. Of course, lots of people commenting about the ANC, understandably so. But I did ask you, the budget speech, not so much what do you think is going to say, that's like boring predictions, but what are you going to look out for? That's the one thing. What's the one thing in the budget speech that matters the most to you tomorrow, more than any other issue?
Ashraf, tomorrow the Minister of Finance is going to try and screw more money out of everybody. He must stop that. Do you know there are 407 generals in the South African Defence Force? 407. If they wanted to sort out NHI, just do away with GEMS and make all public servants go to state hospitals. I guarantee the service will come right. Chop, chop. Mike Islander.
Okay, Mike's got his views. There's more on South Africa, USA, SA.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is from Bloemfontein. Who are the people that are going to be affected by America removing South Africa from AGOA? It is Afrikaners, because they are the most that are producing this product that falls under AGOA agreement. The second issue is the Lesotho land claim. When did the United Nations have a resolution that says South Africa must return the land to Lesotho?
But you see, here's the point about, and I know we've spoken about it, that Afrikaners will bear the brunt as farmers. But ultimately, if they bear the brunt as farmers, we'll all still bear the brunt of it. Let's not be naive about that. All of us will bear the brunt of that, okay? Right, another comment about the ANC.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and SAFM listeners. I know they will say, hey, what is this one doing with our matters here in the ANC? But hey, man, Ashraf, where are the young ones? Where is the youth in the ANC there? When this pensioners keeps on bouncing back in the system, the likes of Amos Masondo, man, Jeff Radebe, don't you think is the time they should be playing with their grandchildren there at home? More than 70 years and people are still running. I can't, man. Good afternoon.
But to be fair, they're part of the ANC, and they're not there as MPs. They're not working every single day. They're part of effectively a convening advisory committee. And it's very clear they are there because their wisdom, in inverted commas, is so sorely needed in the absence of wisdom elsewhere. I mean, that's the way I interpret that. They're there to serve a purpose. You don't remove that. In fact, sometimes the absence of these wisdom makers, the senior leadership, sometimes creates this huge void in organizations, and you can't just jettison them off without replacing them effectively. But as far as the bright stars of the youth, well, I'll leave it to the ANC to sort out, isn't it?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. If you remember well, Mr. Paul Mashatile went to KZN, in fact, also in Gauteng. He told them, no one is going to be removed. We are just discussing, but no one is going to be removed. But after all, we see it. Someone is removed. And it doesn't make sense at all, because also the national must be blamed. If they are removing the secretaries, why is Fikile Mbalula still there? Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what, Fikile will explain the position, I believe, of those new appointments as well after 5 o'clock. So I do understand. And here's another one, just maybe the last one I can play before we get to the news.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Fugane from Durban. For me, Ashraf, the US can keep the AGOA, because AGOA has certain clauses like the IMF where we cannot industrialize certain things in our own country. Simplest things that we can even be making or creating in our own country, because we have this so-called AGOA agreement. They can keep it. We will survive. We can re-industrialize as long as we have a government which is willing to do that, not to make us beggars. Because right now the US is showing that we are beggars to them.
Well, I think the one thing we must be aware is we must remove our dependence on all countries, not just the USA, including China and Russia and everybody else too. Somehow we need to remove that dependence. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Iba Chipa.
Thanks, Ashraf. Top stories for this hour. 2 killed in an Inanda shootout with police, and Ramokgopa vows to bring load reduction to an end. Good afternoon, I'm Eva Chipa. 2 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police in Inanda in the north of Durban. In a statement, KZN police say they were acting on information from the community about the suspects they believed were responsible for house robberies and other crimes in the area. Police say this led them to the suspects inside a house. When they announced their presence, the suspects opened fire on them. Police have confirmed that preliminary investigations have established links between the suspects and the Inanda West gang, with 1 other suspect arrested. Minister of Agriculture John Steenhuisen says there's misinformation being spread about him and his department. He says this is not good for the agricultural sector in South Africa. Speaking to at a media briefing earlier today, Steenhuisen says he's been the target of a public campaign of sensationalist misinformation. This relates to allegations made by Sakaliga, an organization which is against the BBBEE and race-based quotas. The body alleges that Steenhuisen introduced Agri-BBBEE by establishing several transformation funds. Steenhuisen says he wants to set the record straight.
I wish to make it clear that the Department of Agriculture is not the custodian of BBBEE. A little bit of basic research by Sakaliga and LaRue would have shown that the gazetting and promulgation of the architecture and regulatory framework was done by the Department of Trade and Industry. The codes of good practice were signed by the then Minister of Trade and Industry on the 8th of December 2017, a full 9 years before I became the Minister of Agriculture.
Minister of Electricity and Energy Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says he is confident that load reduction will soon be a thing of the past. He's also calling on communities to stop illegal connections, particularly in informal settlements and townships. The minister was speaking at the South African Human Rights Commission's National Investigative Inquiry into the impact of load reduction on human rights.
So, Chair, what is it that we are doing? So the first one is to ensure that there's grid expansion. So grid expansion simply means that the wires that you see and the substations and all of, they are able to reach your far remote areas. But the problem with that approach is that it's very expensive. So that 4 billion rands that I say it's an allocation we get per annum is going to be significantly insufficient because the bulk of that money will be spent in building the lines and the transformers.
In other news, PwC senior economist Christy Viljoen says the decrease in the fourth quarter unemployment number is positive news. However, the economy needs to grow by 3% to create meaningful jobs. Stats SA's quarterly labour force survey has revealed that the official unemployment rate has decreased to 31.9% in the fourth quarter of 2024 from 32.9% in the third quarter. Viljoen says the number is bound to change in the first quarter of 2025 due to the seasonal jobs coming to an end in January.
That group of discouraged workers, it's basically people that are willing and able to work, but they've given up on finding a job. Several millions of them. Let's be honest, we are aware of these people. Many of them are very young, people that have never had a proper job, that will probably never have a proper job. And those are the people being failed by an economy that is just growing way too slowly. If we can get this economy growing by 2-3%, that's how we absorb more of those young people.
And lastly, looking further afield, the Israeli military says it's keeping troops at 5 southern Lebanese posts despite today's withdrawal deadline. Lebanon says it will consider any remaining Israeli presence on its lands an occupation and said it has the right to use any means to ensure an Israeli withdrawal. The United Nations has called Israel's actions a violation of the terms of the ceasefire, which ended the war with Hezbollah. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar made his own allegations.
We are completing the withdrawal despite the violations of the agreement. The most basic violation is the presence of Hezbollah activists south of the Litani River. Once Lebanon fully implements its side of the deal, there will be no need to hold these points.
Recapping the top story at 4. 2 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police in Inanda in the north of Durban. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour for SFM News. I'm Eva Chipa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg has a crash reported before Crown Interchange. The N1 northbound in Fourways has a truck crash after Winnie Mandela Drive exit. Witkoppen Road eastbound has heavy traffic reported through Paulshof. Main Road northbound in Lone Hill is slow moving towards Lachlan Road. In Houghton Estate, the M1 southbound queuing towards Houghton Drive, and the M1 northbound is queuing towards Athol Oaklands Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle after the M41 Gateway exit. The N2 is where a pedestrian crash is reported on the link to the N3 East at Spaghetti Junction. The N3 eastbound in Camperdown has a stationary truck near Mlaws Road, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. The M5 northbound is slow moving towards the N1 Kuburg interchange. The M3 northbound slow moving at Paradise Road, and the N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
In sports this hour, rain halts play of the game between Zimbabwe and Ireland on day 3 of their ODI clash, and Schwartzel and Grace to play at the SA Open. More details at 4:30.
Upgrade your TV game with the SABC TV License Rewards. It's your golden ticket to VIP treatment. Imagine signing up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za, racing through a few steps, and bam! Instant reward, just for being you. Plus, pocket up to 500 Rand back. That's the cherry on top. But wait, it's not just about the cash. We're talking about sweet deals and epic rewards. Think discounts on all your favorite things, from shopping to travel and entertainment. Your payment unlocks a world of fun. So, why wait? Dive into the excitement. Join the SABC's TV License Rewards at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. Hit those buttons and watch your TV experience level up. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments, they make a difference. Reigning African champions Banyana are gearing up to defend their WAFCON title in Morocco. Dr. Ellis and the girls want to deny neighbors Lesotho a moment to shine, but Mehala Dito believe their game plan is too great to stop. This is the international friendly. Experience the Southern African Derby, South Africa versus Lesotho, on Saturday 22 February at 12:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC 2. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Right, lots more to talk about. I'll certainly get your calls. I can tell you now we'll chat to the Cape Town Mayor, Jordan Hill-Lewis, coming up just now, looking ahead to the budget. He does not want to have compromises regarding low-cost housing in the Western Cape or the Cape Town region. So we'll talk about that, but my question to you broadly is, with regard to the budget speech, what's the one thing, I don't want predictions, what's the one thing that you will be looking out for? You know, we all look out for different things. What's the one thing that you are most interested in and that will matter to you? And tell me why. Let's get those calls, 086 0002032, WhatsApp, text or voice notes, 0614 104 107. And then you can tweet, use the hashtag #TheNationalPulse, and then just tag us, Ashraf Garda, as well as myself, SAFM Radio. Right, let's, in the meantime, think about this. 52, in fact, we'll get to this right after next.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so make a note of this and remember, 52-year-old Sipho loves Outsurance Essential. Well, why? Because it's low-cost insurance made for older cars. For his 2007 Hyundai Tucson, he only pays 413. Let me get that right. 314 rands per month. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Now, top this up with a motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's, and information online.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, in the meantime, the South African Human Rights Commission, well, they've been holding an inquiry hearing on the impact of load reduction on human rights. What a fascinating conversation. The Eskom CEO, Dan Marokani, was part of the panel that was answering questions at the Human Rights Commission's inquiry into load reduction. In this clip, Dan Marokani explains what, according to him, causes load reduction.
Then deal with the issue of illegal connections, and that the fact in law is that there's a requirement that everyone who receives electricity should be a lawful customer. And I know that there's been conversations around the issue of self-connection, which is a method that does not exist within the Act itself or any of the codes. I'll also address the issues of the notices, the PAJA notices that Eskom issues. And when we understand the nature of the risk, we'll then understand that there is very dynamic monitoring of what is happening in the space. We'll give you a sense of what is it that we look at from a technical perspective that gives us a sense of what are the windows that we should be looking at. It's not an absolute science, but there's some considered views in terms of when is the infrastructure likely to be under pressure, because we understand that the demand cycles for the course of over a 24-hour period. We also submit to the Commission that to assist the Commission in terms of tackling this key issue, that the participation be broadened quite widely with the municipalities. They also carry quite a significant impact of this. We also think that the issue of free basic electricity could also be given a lot more help to the Commission by the National Treasury in this phase. When we conclude, we really draw towards the point that we can only defeat this issue through coordinated cooperation from all stakeholders, because we understand what the solutions are. We need to be able to own it up, move towards implementation, and hold ourselves accountable in as far as the timelines for delivery and collaboration is concerned. This is defeatable, and the Minister, I concur with the Minister that we have gone through the most difficult part of ensuring that our generation assets are able to give us the kind of reliability that we need. This is defeatable with a collaboration of all stakeholders. So let me start off with regards to load reduction. This issue has been made repeatedly. We're experiencing a significant equipment failure, amongst other reasons, the overloading of the equipment. It's now taking us, as I said, on average 6 months to replace transformers, and the waiting list is getting longer and longer. There's cost associated with this. Mondo may be able to give you a sense of what these numbers look like. Now, from a technical point of view, the overloading is explained as when an equipment transformer starts to operate above the legal safety limits, and that is as a result of the demand being pulled from it being higher than its design. You start getting to a point where your inbuilt safety systems will kick in and trip the equipment. But what we see in the areas where there's illegal connections, even those safety measures are bypassed. The end result are many pictures that you may have seen of this equipment exploding, causing fire, damaging infrastructure, and also bringing health and safety risks. Load reduction is not a result of not enough generation capacities. There is adequate. We talk about the system updates on a regular basis. This is localized. It's localized to an area where the prevalence of illegal connection is high, the prevalence of meter bypassing is high, and as a result of that, there's a mismatch between the installed capacity and what the demand at that localized point is looking like. Unfortunately, in that space, you also have customers that may be paying, that are doing the utmost best to remain, responsible citizens. But the design of the network as it sits, does not allow you to be able to isolate them as it sits. There are solutions to move towards that point with the associated costs. When we are faced with a situation of equipment overload like this, a prudent distributor, and I dare say a prudent municipality in this case who's got a distribution license, is called upon to protect the equipment through load reduction. It's a non-voluntary network infrastructure protection tool. It's used by the distributor to cap network overload to arrest the loss of equipment, as I've already said. And it does bring about interruptions in the short term, but it avoids prolonged interruptions to the consumer or even loss of life on a longer term basis. So
staying with the same issue, now, the Electricity and Energy Minister, Dr. Josientsho Ramokgopa, he's genuinely a high energy person, and I'm not exaggerating. If you meet him in person, he's just full of energy, but then you see him on TV, listening to him on radio, he just naturally exudes energy. So it's interesting that he's the man who's in charge of our energy. But he had this to say.
To have electricity uninterrupted for 30 days in a month. And that talks to the affordability. So there's the 8 million that are not in the room because they just don't have electricity. I have not quantified this number, but it's a substantial number of households that can afford electricity. They are not in the room because the conversation is not about affordability, it's around load reduction. So I'm really trying to crystallize the nature of the conversation, that when we talk about the relationship between load reduction and the quality of life, and the fact that it erodes, if you like, the human rights of those that are subjected to load reduction. Don't forget the 8 million, don't forget those that cannot afford. So as an engineer, we are trained that you spend a lot of time framing the problem statement. So what is it that I'm trying to solve? And you'll see that solving the problem is relatively easy. So I thought I must take time to provide that framing. Now let me explain to you what is it that we are doing. So I'm sure the next logical question will ask me, so you come here, you say there's 1.6 million people. What are you doing to connect them? You come here and tell us that there's so many people that cannot afford. What are you doing to assist them? You come here, you tell us there's load reduction is a function of illegal connections. It's an important point I'm making. It has no relationship with payment levels. it's myself speaking. I know I've got a very unique voice. Thanks for reminding me that, okay, at least, yeah. So, Chair, what is it that we are doing? So the first one is to ensure that there's grid expansion. So grid expansion simply means that the wires that you see and the substations and all of, they are able to reach your far remote areas. But the problem with that approach is that it's very expensive. So that 4 billion rands that I say it's an allocation we get per annum is going to be significantly insufficient because the bulk of that money will be spent in building the lines and the transformers to get it to poor households. So we do that, especially in urban areas, because it's more efficient to do it. But when we go to rural areas, we are doing what we call off-grid solutions. When I started, I said technology has advanced. You can do the behind-the-meter intervention. So essentially, you are not connected to the ESCOM infrastructure, the municipal infrastructure. You can have a solar, combine it with battery, a hybrid model, and you are able to provide to this house. We have started already. ESCOM will tell you the areas that they've started. The most recent one, which will be electrifying, the project they started is in the Madimbo and Mavete villages in Musina. We'll be doing the same in Elias Mutsualedi, Maruleng, Tabazimbi. We finished with the provincial government and those municipalities, all municipalities in Limpopo. Yesterday we were in the Free State, so we have already started Malutia Pufong, some of these interventions. We are doing with Tokologo, we'll do with Tsolopele, we'll do with Mangaung. You mentioned them. So the point I'm making is that we have already started with these solutions. And I'm going to link them back on the question that we are discussing. And
that is the South Africa's Minister of Electricity and Energy, Dr. Ramokgopa. Right. Okay. Comments, reaction on that. It is the national pulse, so you tell me, does that, what does that do for your pulse rate? We'll take a lot of calls around 4:45. In one go, lots of calls, lots of WhatsApp, text messages, voice notes, all of that. But coming up next, ahead of the budget speech tomorrow, we chat to the Mayor of Cape Town.
It's time to shine for young athletes across South Africa. From thrilling football and rugby matches to intense netball games. Experience the passion and prowess of Mzansi's finest young sports stars. Super Sports Schools and SABC Plus bring you the specially curated channel dedicated entirely to school and youth sports. Join us as we celebrate their achievements and bring the excitement right to your screens. This is your chance to support the future of South African sports. The Super Sports Schools channel on SABC Plus, where every game is a home game. Don't miss a moment. Download the SABC Plus app today. Available on iOS, Google, and Smart TV. Or visit sabc-plus.com to start streaming. Super Sports Schools on SABC Plus. All the sport you care about most. Now streaming wherever you are.
So, 25-year-old Chanel loves Outsurance Essential, well, because it's low-cost insurance designed for older cars. For her 2012 Hyundai 1.2, she only pays 458 Rand a month. Now, with Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million Rand liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million Rands. Now, add even more value with the motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 Rands. I'm just wondering how many people listening does that apply to you? If so, SMS CAR to 43187. You got that? CAR 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's, and information online.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, with me now, ahead of the budget speech, is the mayor, the executive mayor of the city of Cape Town, Mayor Jordan Hill Lewis. Appreciate your time as always. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Absolute pleasure. Good to be with you.
Now, it's interesting. I mean, just before talking to you, we've been throwing ahead to the audience, telling them to say, what's the one thing they want to look out for from the budget speech? There's 100 things, but what's the one thing that's most important to them? I suppose I could say the same thing to you, right? But I understand that you have a particular bent or a slant around the issue of low-cost housing, so go for it.
Okay, well, let me say that in the last 24 hours or 48 hours or so, I see that the debate has somewhat shifted to the rumors of a tax proposal. We certainly would not be supporting any additional taxes. That taxes are already far too high. But there is a huge amount of waste and poor impact spending in the South African government, and we can document and itemize tens and tens of billions of examples of that. And what we are saying is that there should be prioritization of that money better to direct it towards the things that really make a difference in people's lives, particularly in municipalities where the rubber meets the road in service delivery, so to speak. Things like affordable housing and state subsidized housing. Those grants have all been going down in recent years, not up. And that impact of that is felt very much on the ground. So that is the call that we were making.
Okay, so give me an example of, what is the grant that, let's say, in your region, the city of Cape Town, would have received for per house, and you say that the trend is downward. So where is it at?
Oh no, it's very sharply downward. So for example, the city of Cape Town received about R1 billion last year for housing projects. To give you an example, that is about 50%. It's half what it was, say 5 or 6 years ago. So the number is just going steadily down every year, and that's not the only one. Grants for informal settlement upgrading, grants for basic services, all going down. We see the controversy in South Africa around the availability of doctors' positions, of nurses' positions, of teachers, and so on. All of those grants and those allocations have been going down. And where's the money been going? Of course, we know it's been going to bail out state-owned entities and been going to pay our ever-growing debt bill. So that is the kind of reprioritization and clear-eyed view of what our country's priorities should be. And we are saying from a municipal perspective, some of the best impact money you can spend is that money that goes to basic services and affordable housing.
On the issue of state-owned entities, I heard what you said, but it's not exclusively going to state-owned entities.
Well, 700 billion rand.
All right, but I'm also saying that if that's the case, also monies are spent elsewhere. What I am agreeing with you, and yes, I've had many conversations with important stakeholders, this issue about every problem in South Africa can't be solved because, there's a standard answer. We don't have the money, whether it's education in the Western Cape, and I've heard that, from the doctors to those being employed and unemployed, we don't have the money. So therefore, with this particular budget, right, what would you be looking for?
So, the broader point you're making is absolutely right, and that is the issue of growth. There is only one way to get out of the financial hole we're in, and that is to grow our way out of it. The only way to attract more revenue to the state, to put more money in people's pockets, to get more people into work, is a growing economy. So everything that we want to, the clear focus needs to be on how we are going to get the economy growing. So I'm approaching this. This is more of a kind of national discussion we're having now. I'm approaching this as a mayor of a major city, and I'm saying I have seen how my budget in our city has been pinched and nipped and tucked over the last few years to subsume and consume more money at the center. And that trend has to reverse. We have to see, because the service delivery impact is really felt, and that's not just in Cape Town. This will be the same in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, and elsewhere, where fewer and fewer houses can be delivered. All of the exciting programs that we have for social housing, for example, all of the really path-breaking work we're doing to try and release more city land, foster for social housing, that is in jeopardy if it doesn't get the financial support it needs from the state.
Okay. Maybe map out a scenario with regard to housing for the poorest communities in the city of Cape Town. At this point in time, I think I've seen numbers like 4,000 and then 12,000 is part of a greater plan. Tell me more about what does that really mean?
So we let me summarize it as follows. For the last 20 or 30 years, the government housing program has actually exacerbated spatial apartheid. What it has done is that it is pushed housing projects to the far distant corners of cities. And we have flipped that on its head over the last few years. We've said we've got to bring housing projects into the inner core of the city, close to CBDs, close to job opportunities. And we've started to push Smaller properties, because you won't find those huge tracts of land, obviously, unless you free up all that national government-owned land. But smaller properties, we've pushed them through our pipeline. We've got them released for social housing, which is subsidized state housing, very affordable, and you can build it right in the heart of business districts and very close to jobs. That has the added benefit. We know at the moment many working South Africans are spending 30%, 40% and more of their monthly income on public transport. So that helps you, obviously you cut out that huge expense. So that's really been a huge drive of ours, but of ours. And
Okay,
we've
so
had
which
success.
areas are you talking about when you say inner city?
The Cape Town, the Cape Town, the main CBD.
Right.
Then, of course, we've got a couple of subsidiary CBDs. We've got Belleville CBD, we've got Wynberg CBD, Mitchells Plain CBD, Montague Gardens Industrial Area, Epping Industrial Area. So all of those places where jobs are concentrated, where you have a huge concentration of jobs, that's where we are trying to do those projects.
Okay, so those relate to like 4,000 units, and I think the grand plan is 12,000 units, right?
Correct.
Where would those houses be built?
In similar areas, all over the city. It's as we can release more and more parcels and get them through the system.
Is all of that dependent on the generosity of the Minister of Finance?
In a way, because the city offers a lot. We discount that land sometimes all the way down to zero. We offer discounted rates and service charges like water and electricity for social housing, and we offer financial support to those projects. But it is very, very hard to make those projects financially sustainable without the state subsidy from the Department of Housing. And if those grants are being cut year on year on year, it just means that fewer and fewer of those projects can be supported.
So what number are you looking for in terms of grant? I mean, do you have a figure?
Well, I mean, how long is a piece of string? We'd like as much money as we can get. But probably in Cape Town, we need several hundred million more. And that would probably just make up for what we've lost in all of these nips and tucks over the last few years. And that would be true of all the other cities as well.
Okay, I know what you'll be keeping an eye on tomorrow with tomorrow's budget. Jordan Hill-Lewis, the Executive Mayor of Cape Town, thank you for your time. Much appreciated you being on the National Pulse. Reaction from you, most welcome as always. It is the National Pulse. I need to hear you, right? Let's get the news headlines. It's 4:30.
Thanks, Ashraf. In your news making headlines for this hour. Minister of Electricity and Energy, Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, says the main reason why load reduction is more prominent in areas around townships and informal settlements is directly attributed to the high amount of illegal connections, which is putting a severe strain on the electricity grid. In other news, 2 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police in Inanda in the north of Durban. In a statement, KZN police say they were acting on information from the community about the suspects they believed were responsible for house robberies and other crimes in the area. And lastly, 4 Republican members of Congress have written a letter to U.S. President Donald Trump arguing for South Africa's exclusion from the African Growth and Opportunity Act. That's it from me. Greg Khoos will have a full bulletin for you at the top of the hour. For SFM News, good afternoon. I'm Eva Chipa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview is queuing on the link to the N12 east at Gululi's interchange. Rabi Street, John Foster Drive in Centurion is closed at N Street due to flooding, and Solomon Mhlangu Drive eastbound in Pretoria has a crash reported near Garsfontein Road. In KZN on the N2 southbound, queuing traffic reported towards the M25 Commercial Highway, and the N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the M7 Jakes Harville Drive southbound is slow moving towards the R300 Highway. The M5 in Rondebosch has a crash reported at Klipfontein Road, and the N1 outbound is queuing towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, to me, let's talk sport. I see, many of the broadcasters are off to Pakistan for that Champions Trophy, right?
Yeah, the Champions Trophy is coming up soon. We are starting off with cricket this time around, but we're looking at the One Day Cup, where World Sports Betting Western Province have welcomed back Kyle Rain and Mihlali Mpongwana ahead of this week's clash against the Northwest Dragons at World Sports Betting Newlands. The pair were on national duty in the recent concluded Tri-Series in Pakistan ahead of the Proteas Champions Trophy campaign, and stand-in captain George Linder says that having the Proteas back will boost the team's confidence ahead of tomorrow's clash, and that match, it starts at 1 p.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, play has resumed between Zimbabwe and Ireland. It's their third ODI. Ireland posting 240 for 6 in their 50 overs. Zimbabwe, the last time I checked, 201 for 1 after 33 overs, and they need 40 runs to win. In football, the Premier Soccer League is reportedly preparing to convene tomorrow to discuss the potential expulsion of Royal AM from the Betway Premiership. Now, the club that is owned by Sean Mkhize finds themselves in turmoil, primarily due to the 40 million rand debt owed to SARS. Now, this massive financial burden has created severe instability at the club, which threatens its very existence. And though the club was bought for around 45 to 50 million rand, it could be bought for way less, and it is reported even half of that, because whoever is going to buy the club is also going to buy its debt. Because remember that 15 million rand owed to Samir Nokovic, it doesn't magically disappear if the new owners take over the club. That money must still be paid to the striker, while Nascimento must also get what he is owed. And same goes to the players who haven't received their full salaries over the last couple of months. In tennis, British number 1 Katie Bolter and former US Open champion Emma Raducanu will compete in a historic women's tournament at Queen's Club in June, and this will be the first women's competition in clubs Queen's Club since 1973, when Olga Morozova claimed the singles title. In golf, SA golf duo Charles Schwartzel and Brandon Grace will tee up at the SA Open at the Durban Country Club next week. They will join defending champion Dean Burmester in a strong field that also includes former Sunshine Tour player Daniel van Tonder, Sean Norris, and rising stars such as Robin Williams and Ryan van Velsen. Now, the event has a purse of $1.5 million and is co-sanctioned by the Sunshine Tour and DP World Tour. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now.
All right, perfect. So, yeah, there's so much going on, but don't comment now. Maybe you're going to bring up an issue that you really want to get off your chest after 5 o'clock, all right? I'll leave it to you to think about it. More sport in an hour.
This summer, SABC brings us together anytime, anywhere. Catch all the drama, entertainment, and sport on SABC TV. Turn up the volume with your favorite hits and shows on SABC Radio. Stream wherever you are with SABC Plus and join the fun at unmissable SABC events near you. From breaking news to moments that move us, SABC is your companion for every summer memory. Celebrate a summer of togetherness with SABC, your home for connection, entertainment, and inspiration.
This business feature is sponsored by CFI, an authorized financial services provider, a global leader in online trading now available in South Africa. Visit cfi.trade today.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, we have with us Makwe Masilela, as always, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good connecting with you. We've got news on local and global markets, but ahead of the budget speech, you've got some stories about Kumba Iron Ore.
Definitely. Afternoon to you and to the listeners. The guys were impacted by lower iron ore prices, which dropped by 21%. Sales volumes dropped by 2%, and the rent firmed almost 1%. Hence, their revenue was down 21%, and their profits, as headline earnings per share, down 45%, and their dividend per share is down 18%. And yes, Ashraf, the German elections over the weekend and U.S. initiated peace talks in regards to Russia-Ukraine conflict. Also of importance is the U.S. Fed minutes to be released tomorrow. but more importantly, our budget speech tomorrow, plus consumer inflation and retail sales. And Ashraf, a resolution to the conflict in Ukraine could improve sentiments, deliver improved consumer confidence as well, and easier financial conditions. And before that, the jobs numbers which were released today will probably lift our finance minister's confidence, as for the second quarter in a row, our unemployment rate fell, and our Q4 unemployment fell by 0.2% to 31.9%, and oil extended gains after a drone attack an oil pipeline in Russia, reducing flows, though prices were kept in check by the prospect of rising supply. We see Brent crude is up 0.1% at $25 a barrel, and the yellow metal also extending gains as Trump's tariffs fuel safe haven demand. We see gold is up 0.6% at $2,912, but platinum is down 1.4% at $981. And then markets are trading in the grain with the JSE at record highs. We're up 0.8%, getting support mainly from our industrials, which are up 1.4% as the likes of Naspers and Proxys are lifted by Chinese tech stocks, and the rand is flat ahead of that budget speech. It's now trading 18.41 against the US dollar, 23.20 against the pound, and 19.23 against the euro.
Well, there you are. Perfect. Thanks for that, Makwe. We will connect tomorrow.
Thank you for tuning in to today's business feature, proudly sponsored by CFI, a leading trading app now available in South Africa. Download it now. Visit cfi.trade today.
Hi, I'm Lewis Hamilton. Victory demands everything, but the journey is never solo. My team carves the way, data and innovation are my compass. This is how today's champions are made.
Trade like a champion with CFI. Access over 15,000 instruments, advanced trading tools, 24/7 support, and superior trading services. Visit cfi.trade today. CFI Financial Markets LLC is a Category 1 licensed broker by the UAE Securities and Commodities Authority. Trading involves high risk.
CFI, empower yourself.
My name is Vusiwe intokazi yakwaNgcobo ufuze umapholo mashamahle makhulu mashiyamade engasazoshumayela. When last did I go to a party and how was the experience? I don't party at all. But my parents did have a 40th wedding anniversary as well as my mom's 60th birthday, so that was the last party I went to. Nothing beats partying with older people. It's a lot of fun. Can I sing a short verse of appreciation? What am I gonna sing? Holy, you'll always be. What do I like so much about SABC Sport? It's not even a like, it's a love. I love the fact that we're able to bring real stories to the people of South Africa. Catch
the Queen of Mzansi Diski, Vusiwe Ngcobo, on match days, live on Laduma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Tell you what, I want to feel your pulse rate in about 5 minutes' time. And after 5 o'clock, we'll have an update, another take on the developments within the ANC. Remember, they've had those huge changes of the leadership within the ANC in Gauteng as well as in, certainly Gauteng as well as in the KZN region, right? Okay, in the meantime, you may have followed the story with huge concern, right? And TikTok made the news. Pablo posted on TikTok leaked video showing extreme violence and torture perpetrated by the nightclub bouncers at a nightclub called Zanzu, right, against patrons who, according to the story, failed to settle their debts or their bills, right? Now, that story has certainly done the rounds all day today. Let's get an update on that with my guest, Alderman Hannes Kutse, the MMC for Community Safety in the city of Tshwane. I appreciate your time, Alderman. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon to the listeners.
Thank you. I mean, I've seen the press release. Of course, you condemn it. But, I mean, beyond just condemning it, like, what do you understand by what has just happened here?
Well, as the city of Tshwane, we strongly condemn the violent assault and the abuse of patrons at the nightclub that was happening in Pretoria. And it's actually depicted. You know, we're not very happy about it. We applaud the good work that SAPS has done. What is also happening now is the Specialized Family and Violence, Child Protection and the Sexual Investigations Unit has assumed responsibility for this case to ensure justice for the victims. And also the TMPD is working very well together with SAPS to implement compliance measures at this nightclub and any other high-risk area. We have also started with the IBEC, which we've done already since last year, where we do certain investigations to look for compliance in health, in fire, and all the other areas according to the city planning regulations. But we diligently support the law enforcement efforts to uphold bylaws, making businesses operating. What we did find is that this nightclub is actually registered as a Category 1 business, which is not applicable for nightclub at all. So therefore, this case was handed over to the National Police Commissioner, and in cooperation with the Tshwane Metro Police, they are busy with the investigations, and as soon as we get any other information, we will share with whoever. But at this moment, we're condemning because that kind of behavior in our city is not acceptable at all.
What about Pablo? Now, he, in fact, I understand, is also one of those bouncers, and the only way this was recorded was he was able to put it on his chest or something and disguise it. And I think he claims he's got like 70 or 100 videos, and he will play them every single day on his TikTok, right? But the bigger issue is, like, what about himself? Because the obvious thing is, like, is he concerned for his life?
I think that is a case that the police is busy investigating, and at this moment, because it's under police investigation, we cannot actually comment on that. We have seen the videos, and what we did find out is that these things were actually done already in January of 2023. So it seems like it is just somebody that's posting the material. I've also seen another video from the human rights lawyers that is actually saying, can the people on social media please calm down a little bit for the reason to protect the victims, which I actually agree with, you know. But like I said, from outside, we're condemning a situation like that. We will not allow that kind of behavior within the city of Tshwane, and we must make sure that the bylaws, this is why we have started with this interdepartmental bylaw enforcement committee, to ensuring that all businesses comply to health regulations. We even started looking at the derelict buildings. So that's basically the point of view from myself as well as the city.
Okay,
so we condemn something like that.
Right, let the law take its course, and let's hope it certainly does take its course. But in the meantime, I understand there was some activity at the nightclub today, Zenzo, with some trucks trying to pick up things. What happened there? Do you know?
No, I haven't got that information yet because I was in other meetings in Johannesburg. But the place is locked down because it is under police investigation. So I don't think anybody can actually go there to load anything because it's locked down due to, it's basically a crime scene if you want to put it in technical terms. It's a crime scene, so therefore the police will then further investigate.
All right, let's leave it at that. Alderman Hannes Kutsia, the MMC for Community Safety in the city of Tshwane. And there you are. This is a bizarre story, and we have these bizarre stories daily about a man who's this bouncer, Pablo, who's taken videos of, himself, but most importantly, other bouncers who, against patrons who did not settle their bills. Well, there were cases of extreme violence and torture, and I understand even sexual violence perpetrated against these nightclub patrons, customers. Things have just turned around. I'll get your calls in a moment.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, I certainly want to know what you have to say, and you can pick up on any of the things. The one general theme is budget speech tomorrow. You know what Jordan Hill-Lewis from Cape Town wants. What do you want? What's the one thing? I don't mean 20 things, one thing. What's the one thing you want to hear the Minister of Finance say tomorrow? Raju in Durban, let's get your thoughts. Hi.
Hi, Ashraf. How are you doing?
I'm
Welcome back again.
Much appreciated. Pretty well. Go for it, Raju. Yeah.
Okay. What I say is this one thing that I want is an increase in our pension for old age. You can't live on 2,200 a month. My medical bill alone is 3,000 rand a month. How do you live? So I would say this, if you could increase it, I know it may be a tall order, but if you increase all the old age grant to 2,500 rand a month per person, I think we'll all appreciate it. I heard another radio station today during lunchtime talking about the social grant for old people who need the money. They're not saying there's no money. There's plenty of money if you know where to cut.
Okay.
And then all I want is just a little increase in our pension. To at least 2,500 per month per person, I think we'll appreciate it.
All right, and
Thank you.
that's a nice call, which goes to the heart of the story. Sometimes it's not about like emotions about other things. It's about like just how it impacts on you personally. And I think Roger's point, it does impact on him directly. 2,200. Please go up to 2,500, says Roger in Durban. Glenn in Bedfordview. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Ashraf. I'm very sorry I wasn't going to talk about the budget speech. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to. Just a quick,
You can talk
second.
about anything. No, I said the budget speech is one of the major themes, but, different things moves the national pulse, right? USA definitely does so go ahead.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Ashraf. I want to talk about the relations between the U.S. and South Africa. I think the government can't really blame Trump because, remember, Israel is their best friend. Therefore, when they were taking Israel to court at The Hague, they should have expected this would happen. And Trump is doing everything in his power to prove to them that they've touched a wrong friend this time around. Therefore, he will make sure that he frustrates Ramaphosa out of office.
Okay, you may be right on that point that, the USA is not Trump deciding about, and I'm talking about the influence of Israel on USA politics and vice versa, right? So you're quite right, it happened before. It was bound to happen. There's huge lobbying groups that has a huge influence in terms of how they do their business. And the fact that even the latest 4 congressmen cited South Africa, Israel once again as a primary factor why USA must break off diplomatic ties with South Africa is really something else. So, Glenn, thanks for that call, right? I wonder whether that's going to happen. No, it won't, isn't it? Although Lamola, the Minister of International Relations, has said, as per today, that at this point in time, their request to have a meeting with the Americans has not yet been replied to. That should be a big cause for concern, isn't it? Here's another on the USA.
Hello, Ashraf and your listeners. On this U.S. threat, we as South Africa are at a crossroads right now, and we need to make intelligent choices to align ourselves with countries that we aspire to be like, with countries that will assist us in this globalized, interdependent world to become the best that we can be. Thanks, Farai.
Well, thanks for that, Farai. I wonder, that's an interesting thought, Farai. Align ourselves with countries that we should aspire to be like. So which countries, and I'll leave it to you to decide, which countries should South Africa aspire to be like? Can you name names? I want to know. Let's see what happens. I'm trying to think about it myself.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I want to see the plans of employment in this country, and then how to fight crime in this country. As for USA, South Africa relationship, South Africa must not dance the music of USA. They must be independent from USA. They must follow their own route. As for ANC, it's their own baby to look for. This is more Limpopo.
Well, there you are. I don't think South Africa can be, honestly, independent of the USA. In the same way, the USA also can't be independent of all other countries. If they've got a big market of production, and they have no market to sell to, they're in trouble as well. I mean, I'm just making the point about interdependency in the world.
Good afternoon, Ashraf Trevor here from the Eastern Cape. Ashraf, I just want to comment on the previous caller which said that we don't need a goer. We can survive on our own. That this caller know that we currently owe in the World Bank 6 trillion rand. Our interest rate alone a year of 48 billion that we're paying. That's on 8%. The people don't realize that the deep depth that South Africa is in already. Thank you, Ashraf.
Well, that's why we have, leaders, government, and then we have the audience, and we have you. You got all the facts, right? Okay, more thoughts. Lubo in Klebeka, hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, good talking to you.
Yes, which country can we align ourselves with?
Yeah.
Number one, lead us, please, Ashraf, because we've got all the information here.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to make a guess. We are a leader of the nation, man. can you just guide us, please? Because really, people will just say this and this and this, but we don't know exactly what's happening. You understand? Can you lead us, please? Give
All
us
right, I
guidelines.
hear you. Well, look, I need time to think about it, but to lead you with respect, okay? But also, I mean, this is an open forum. I mean, this is audience engagement, so it's up to you to give names. I mean, you could say, align yourself with Israel or Australia or China or Bhutan. It's up to you, but then you must explain why. But yeah, maybe somebody will come with some bright ideas. I'll think about it too. I really will. Okay?
Please, Ashraf, because our knowledge in South Africa, when it comes into these things, to be honest,
Okay.
We are lacking.
Well, that's the most honest caller I've ever had on this show, ever. Absolutely. Lubo, thanks for that. Incognito is like another who's like playing under the radar here in Durban. Go for it. You are. Where do you get a name like that from?
No, just the FM.
Is that a Spaza name? Huh?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
okay.
You can
Okay.
go with it. You can go with it. Look, man. Before I get into my topic, I wanted to say that the country that South Africa should aspire to look for to be is Japan, because of all its other policies and cleanliness. And I actually wanted to talk to you and Jimmy about its economics, but that's not for now.
Okay.
I wanted to say that South Africa needs to top up its national intelligence agencies, because we cannot keep on listening to the U.S. telling us about conspiracy theories and all of that. Just last year or the year before, we had the U.S. Ambassador Brigadier, who kept making terrorist calls, saying that the U.S. needs to evacuate its citizens because there's going to be a terrorist attack and bombings and all of that. You see, yes. So our intelligence has to be on top of its game.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this will make because the U.S. is actually trying to undermine our politics in everything it's doing. Funny enough, they're doing it to the rest of the world with these terrorists and all of that. But as I told Oliver last night, is that the U.S. is actually playing Nazi Germany with Donald Trump being the Hitler and Elon Musk being this guy, Joseph Goebbels. Because the Germany invaded Poland by taking its own political prisoners, putting them on the Polish and German border, dressing them up in Polish military gear and shooting them, and say that Poland was attacking Russia. So, Germany. Now, the USA invaded Iraq, saying that they were making or manufacturing weapons of mass destruction. And it was proven by the UN to be false. You see,
that was a UK. It was a Tony Blair-driven agenda, but you're quite right. Okay, I get your point, Incognito. South Africa needs to up its national intelligence agencies. Spot on. I think the biggest problem we face right now is there seems to be a serious lack of money. There really is, and it's a very, very worrisome issue, Incognito. As far as your point about Japan is concerned, you know what? You may be right. I've never yet been to Japan. Love to go there. Whoever's been there said, what a place, man. You need to get there. Incognito, thanks for that. Right, further comments on the budget speech.
Hi, Chef Phil from Krugersdorp here. What I do want from the budget speech, hopefully, is if they could increase the old age pension a little bit more than what they have been, because we can hardly live on that, though I'm very grateful for it. So I will certainly be watching with interest at 2 o'clock tomorrow to see what they have to say. Thank you, my friend. Peace be with you. Have a good day.
That's a nice call. In fact, that point effectively resonates with Raj, I think, who called earlier on, saying the same thing. Increase the budget. You see, that's the point. What I'm saying is the budget means different things to different people. That's what I want to know from you. What's the one thing of the budget speech that's the most important thing that interests you, okay? Right, we've just lost the one caller. We'll get to that in a moment. More voice notes. Unemployment is a big issue, isn't it?
Hi, Ashraf and the listeners of SAFM. Yes, Wilson from East London. Ashraf, the stats are there, unemployment is high. But to be honest, I never heard of a SA politician in Ramaphosa's cabinet talking about the stats, putting the stats forward. No, everything is about rhetoric. Nothing is backed up by statistics. So they don't take this department seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if they don't take it seriously. Although I know Paddy Lahotla, former statistician general himself, and I had him on a show a few months ago. Listen to the podcast, by the way. Made the point that South Africa planning will go all wrong if they don't plan accordingly, and the stats are there for them to plan their plans on, right?
Good day, Ashraf. Mkwete here in Kala. The Minister of Health has just told us that it's 10% the money that is funded by US to South Africa, of which 70% is from South Africa. But Elon Musk's father told us that the reason the Americans are withdrawing that money is because they don't see the results. Instead, the politicians are enriching themselves. Then there is a truth without truth here. Somebody is telling lies here. Thanks, Ashraf Mkwete in Kala.
Okay, interesting. You're quoting Elon Musk's father, not Elon Musk, but his father. Here's another thought about that conversation we had about that nightclub in Pretoria.
Good afternoon, good people there. What happened at that club? It's a drop in an ocean. It's a drop in an ocean. What is happening in that province called Gauteng? Dig deep, go deeper. You'll be shocked. Otherwise, welcome to the United States of Africa in South Africa. Welcome to the United States of Africa in South Africa. Welcome. But it's a drop in an ocean. Dig deep, go deeper. You'll be shocked what these people are doing to our people. You'll be shocked. Otherwise, go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, the last person who said I'm shocked 3 times was the president, in fact. So maybe you're auditioning for a job about being shocked. Here's another one talking about the president, Ramaphosa and Trump. Let's play that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. If I were the president, Ramaphosa, I would tell Donald Trump to back off. We don't need him, and he's not our master. We are not his slaves. That's what he must know. Thank you very much, Peter Maila Machaba from Letswatla.
Peter, by the way, I don't know if he can tell him to back off. In fact, he did it already. He said, don't bully us. We will not be bullied, right? What's that word? We will not be bullied. Here's another comment. Why should the leaders of the world's biggest economy be expected to meet with a bunch of mamparas, such as the ANC leadership? Oh, okay. Well, then why would they even comment about South Africa if we're such non-entities? I don't think that's the case. I think we are important across the board, isn't it? Here's another quick comment before we get to the news. It's a bit too long, but I'll read a bit of it. It's inconceivable that the USA could go to such lengths, such as the cutting of age, planning to remove South Africa from AGOA and cutting off diplomatic ties purely because of alleged land grabs in our country. The land expropriation excuse trotted out by the USA for punishing South Africa was always a lie. The reality is that the US is angered by South Africa's ICJ case and its public condemnation of the Israeli actions in Gaza. There's a whole lot more I can't read, just far, far too long. But that story about the ICJ has now been, it's up front. The US are pretty clear about that too. Right, by the way, with the developments regarding the changes in the leadership within the ANC, KZN and Gauteng, we'll get another take on that just after 5 o'clock. Let's get the news now. Here's Greg House.
Thank you, Ashraf. In this news update, load reduction not race-based and Republicans write letter to Trump over AGOA. Good day to you. The Minister of Electricity and Energy, Khosiensoro Makgopa, says the main reason why load reduction is more prominent in areas around townships and informal settlements is directly attributed to the high amount of illegal connections, which puts severe strain on the power grid. The Minister was speaking at an inquiry of the Human Rights Commission in Sandton, north of Johannesburg, into the impact of load reduction on human rights. He told the inquiry that load reduction in certain areas has nothing to do with race.
On the issue around load reduction in these municipalities, just go and do an exercise on the proliferation of informality in the country. It's located close to townships that are predominantly black and less affluent. That's where you find what we call mikuku and all of that. And then people connect themselves illegally. And as a result, on the strain that is placed on the assets, then you find load reduction. And that's the point I'm making. There's no relationship with race. It just has everything to do with the design of the spatial design in the country.
2 suspects have been killed in a shootout with police in Inanda, north of Durban. In a statement, police said they were acting on information from the community about suspects they believed were responsible for house robberies and other crimes in the area. Police say this led to the suspects inside a house who then opened fire on them. Police have confirmed that investigations have established links between the suspects and the Inanda West gang. The Agriculture Minister, John Steenhuisen, says there's misinformation being spread about him and his department. He says this is not good for the agricultural sector. Speaking at a media briefing, Steenhuisen says he's been the target of a public campaign of sensationalist misinformation. This relates to allegations made by Sagaliga, an organisation which is against BBEE and race-based quotas. Steenhuisen says he wants to set the record straight.
I wish to make it clear that the Department of Agriculture is not the custodian of BBEE. A little bit of basic research by Sagaliga and LaRue would have shown that the gazetting and promulgation of the architecture and regulatory framework was done by the Department of Trade and Industry. The codes of good practice were signed by the then Minister of Trade and Industry on the 8th of December 2017, a full 9 years before I became the Minister of Agriculture.
City of Johannesburg's Emergency Management Services has urged residents who reside in low-lying areas to exercise caution and avoid crossing rivers and streams in this rainy weather. This follows a warning for severe thunderstorms. Emergency Services spokesperson Robert Malowitsi.
Yesterday, we actually lost a life and 2 people were critically injured. We are still urging our motorists out there to exercise caution while driving, extend the safe following distance, and most importantly, avoid crossing flooded roads and low-lying bridges, because we have seen in the past where motorists will try and take a chance to cross, flooded roads and bridges, and in the process, their vehicles might be, swept away.
4 Republican members of Congress have written a letter to U.S. President Donald Trump arguing for South Africans' exclusion from the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or AGOA. In a letter seen by the SABC, the 4 representatives argue that South Africa is in need of a reminder of what happens when U.S. interests are marginalized, accusing the country of human rights abuses, a vendetta against Israel, and embracing the Chinese Communist Party. They also suggest that Trump suspend diplomatic ties unless the South African government is prepared to engage constructively with the U.S. Showan Bryce Peace reports.
The letter refers to an ethno-nationalist gangster regime in Pretoria accusing the government of attempting, without providing evidence, to expropriate land from native South Africans without compensation. It accuses South Africa of failing to demonstrate consistent fidelity to the rule of law, arguing that these alleged violations would make South Africa ineligible for preferred benefits within AGOA. The letter cites significant human rights abuses, including unlawful and arbitrary killings, arbitrary arrests or detention, serious government corruption, trafficking in persons, and extensive gender-based violence, including femicide, arguing that South Africa undermines American security and foreign policy interests.
The top story, the Minister of Electricity says the main reason why load reduction is more prominent in areas around townships and informal settlements is directly attributed to the high amount of illegal connections. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Goos.
And coming up in your sports, the Sawa Champions League takes centre stage tonight, and WSB Western Province boosted ahead of Dragons Clash. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, in Four Ways, the N1 northbound has a truck crash reported after Winnie Mandela Drive exit, causing heavy delays, and the N1 southbound queuing approaching Winnie Mandela Drive exit due to a truck crash on the north side. The N3 southbound in Germiston is queuing towards Geldenhuys interchange, the M1 southbound queuing through Crown interchange towards Boysons, the N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road. In Pretoria, Solomon Mhlangu Drive eastbound has a crash reported near Garsfontein Road, and the N1 southbound has a crash reported before Rigel Avenue. In KZN on the N2, there's sporadic community unrest north of Pongola, so expect delays as well as diversions during the protest, and please do check before travel. The N2 southbound queuing towards the M25 Commercial Highway. The N2 southbound has a stationary vehicle before Spaghetti Junction. The M7 westbound is queuing towards Belleville Road exit, and Umgeni Road is where crash is reported at Supply Road. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. Marine Drive northbound in Tableview queuing towards Dolphin Beach Hotel. The M3 southbound is slow moving at Rhodes Drive, and the M5 northbound queuing towards the N1 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Jazz lovers, the wait is over. Africa's grandest gathering returns on the 25th to the 26th of April at the Cape Town International Convention Center. Experience 2 nights of soul-stirring jazz, electrifying collaborations, and over 30 world-class artists across 4 iconic stages. Don't miss this unforgettable musical experience. Get your tickets now at ticketmaster.co.za. Brought to you by Independent Media, proud media partner of the Cape Town International Jazz Festival.
Upgrade your TV game with the SABC TV License Rewards. It's your golden ticket to VIP treatment. Imagine signing up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za, breezing through a few steps, and bam! Instant reward. Just for being you. Plus, pocket up to 500 Rand back. That's the cherry on top. But wait, it's not just about the cash. We're talking about sweet deals and epic rewards. Think discounts on all your favorite things, from shopping to travel and entertainment. Your payment unlocks a world of fun. So, why wait? Dive into the excitement. Join the SABC's TV License Rewards at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. Hit those buttons and watch your TV experience level up. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments, they make a difference.
The whispers in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care, at SAFM we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection, and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness, and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other, and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady and you are my man.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, if you're a supporter of the ANC, you'll be saying, hey guys, it's happening. Things are happening in KZN. Things are happening in the Gauteng province. Before I get to Sandile Swana in a moment, here's the thought, another comment from Tim in KZN. Ashraf, love it, love it, love it. The caller asking why America should bother talking to a bunch of Mamparos. Good on you, buddy. Well, there you are. Okay, we do get such diverse opinions. Listening to the show from wherever, Pietermaritzburg to Pinetown to, Cape Town to Johannesburg to the East Rand, the Kuruleni region, and from anywhere around the world. And often we get people listening on live streaming from around the world. If you're that person listening from another country, just for now, I want to know who you are. Just send us a WhatsApp voice note or a text message, 0614 104 107, or tweet it out at hashtag the National Pulse, tag SFM Radio, and tag me, Ashraf Garda. Okay, so we now know there's been some changes regarding the ANC's leadership in the Gauteng region as well as in the KZN region, but very importantly, we also know that the Premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, will retain that position. But let's get further thoughts on what actually has happened and to understand all of that and the implications thereof. Here's Sandile Swana, who's a political analyst, of course. Sandile, good of you to talk to us here on the National Pulse. Sandile, do we have you there? No, maybe not just for the moment. Let's just get Keys to sort that out. In the meantime, it just gives me an opportunity of maybe playing a few more comments. And again, they link to the issues of jobs. I think very understandable.
Job creation, job creation, job creation. Good afternoon, Ashraf. If I have a job I don't need a government grant. And I also pay SARS tax. So the economy will grow just like that. So job creation is all I want to hear from the president. Notorious Mabilane in Skagula Village, Akonok.
Well, you're right about the job creation. That's what people say. And you're spot on. If you have a job, you don't need a grant. You buy things, you pay taxes. But even when you're buying, you're paying VAT, but you're also benefiting the people you're buying from. So they benefit, they get richer, they pay taxes. That's important. I think it's the most fundamental issue in the country. How do we create more jobs? And often you can't get jobs because we can't grow the economy, so there's not enough businesses able to pay for your jobs. How do we do that? How do we create more jobs in the country? It's got to be the fundamental issue. And I'll tell you what, it's bound to come up in the budget speech tomorrow. So you may want to just bottom line answer that question. The other one, which I really loved, is like South Africa should, choose which countries to aspire to. So which are the countries? We've had one person saying Japan. Which are the countries that you think South Africa should aspire to be like? Is it Japan? Is it another? You tell me, right? Love to know. And then regarding the budget, is there one issue that you've been looking out for in tomorrow's budget speech? Just one aspect that means the most to you, more than anything else.
Hi. Afternoon, Ashraf. This is the start of the end or the annihilation of the ANC. KZN is already gone, not coming back. Gauteng was hanging, so it's also going to be gone by the next municipal elections. The national NEC failed from 57% to 40%. That's where the buck stops. That's where it should be dissolved and have a special conference whereby new leadership should be elected. Other than that, this GNU loving ANC NEC is the death of the ANC. Thank you.
Okay, there we are. I wonder, some may say, really, what choices? Did they really have choices after they lost that chance to govern on their very own?
Good afternoon. I think about the budget speech is that the government is only interested in their own salaries. The most expenditure will go to their salaries. And then there will be nothing left for the public, because what happens is that after allocating the budget for the departments, the leftovers will be only on corruption. That's all. That is Leonard in Kimberley. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for that, Leonard. I don't know. Let's see what happens tomorrow, right? Don't forget the budget speech tomorrow, 2 o'clock is when it starts. Then there'll be a reaction immediately, which Jimmy Moyaha will take all of that in. Of course, he hosts the SAFM Market Update, all that coming from 2 to 4. Then we get to normal business regarding the National Pulse from 4 o'clock. Slightly different tomorrow because of the budget speech in particular. Okay, we've been battling to connect with Sandile Swana. We'll see what we can do around getting further reaction regarding the changes within the ANC political leadership of Gauteng and KZN. In the meantime, we're going to chat to Sibusiso Ntuli, and he has a story to tell.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So, often we have this feature called Winning. We speak to people and we talk to them about their lives and what they're doing and how they've overcome adversity to be where they are right now. That seems to be the case with Sibusiso Ntuli, who's a young man, many challenges, I believe, but also has done well in business and has got an interesting relationship with someone that you would be very, very familiar with as well, which I'll mention just now. Sibusiso, good to connect with you. You're on the National Pulse.
Greetings, Mr. Ashraf. How are you?
Yeah, leave out the Mr. Just Ashraf.
Okay.
That's absolutely fine.
Just out of respect.
No. I'll just call you Sibusiso. You call me Ashraf. Absolutely fine. Anyway, talk about respect. You have a journey to tell us about, right? Of triumph and adversity. Maybe let's go to the very end. What are you doing now? There are things that you're involved in now that is impactful. What are they?
Well, thank you very much for allowing me the time to share my story on your platform, and greetings to the whole of South Africa. I'm a recovering addict. I've been addicted to many different substances from the age of 15. I never knew that I had a problem until I lost custody of my daughter, which was mid last year, and my life spiraled into what would be known as the bitter ends. I then went into rehabilitation as part of a program from jointly with Social Development and Department of Health, where they allow us addicts to receive free medical care at Solomon Sticks Morero Hospital in Selby, which is under the Clinics Group. And it was through that I met a gentleman called Letabo Diale, who was my addiction recovery counselor, and he changed my life. He managed to make me see that addiction has nothing to do with drugs. Addiction has everything to do with the things we don't want to confront. Addiction has everything to do with the pain inside and embroiled as you experience life from a young child to a toxic world.
So tell me
I
more
won't
about that.
blame anybody.
Addiction is all about things that you don't want to confront. That happened to you too when it was explained?
So many things took place when I was growing up, the divorce of my parents, and I come from a very stable household at the time. And, to have that taken away from me and have that broken up, you begin to meet new influences. And when you meet these influences, you have no idea about the habits you pick up along the way. So I did drugs not knowing that these are drugs. I before smoking cigarettes, before picking up alcohol, my first consumption was crack cocaine. Unbeknownst to me, I was in a very sorrowful state, and from then on got it caught up with the wrong crowd. And because of this void and because of the sensation that I felt was freeing me, and in very sarcastic inverted commas, I went down a very dark road.
Now, firstly, on that basis, you made the point you come from a stable family. I would think a relatively comfortable family. That means information also would be readily available. How would you not have known that? That if you take a drug or you get involved in different things, you could spiral down. How would you not have known that? When often we speak to others about it, when you accept maybe they don't know better, but how would you not have known that?
So I cannot say I didn't know better, because I did. It's just that I was defenseless to the elements involved. So, we're at an adolescent stage, and what we've been talking about, because I've got a company now called Recover Hub, it's called controlled exposure. Without controlled exposure, your children are going to end up finding these things regardless. So the conversation needs to happen, and if you don't have the tough conversations, you'll have to deal with the tough social ills. So these are the type of things that I believe should be addressed in a stable environment before things get out of hand.
Controlled exposure. I'll tell you what, lots more to come, which I want to pick up on. And then, of course, your journey in terms of where you are in your business career 1 year later, right after this.
It's 2025, aka 2020 Thrive. And from January to December, we're managing our expenses better, even in the month of love. Whatever personal expenses or aspirations you have, make them happen now with a Nedbank personal loan of up to 400,000 Rand and enjoy our best available interest rate.
Search Nedbank personal loans and show your goals some love. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
In the Arena is a docu-series that takes an in-depth look at the life and career of the legendary tennis player Serena Williams, offering a behind-the-scenes glimpse into her journey, both on and off the court. It explores her rise to tennis dominance, challenges, and personal experiences. Do not miss out on a great story of incredible impact. Catch In the Arena on Saturdays at 3 p.m. on SABC3. Alternatively, at 9 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturdays and Thursdays. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Santam can cover your car in just 2 minutes. That's faster than staring into your fridge, convinced there's nothing to eat, with hopes that something new magically appears. Only to end up ordering the same meal you had yesterday. Get your car covered in just 2 minutes so you can live in the moment, not in the worry. Visit santam.co.za. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, having a fascinating chat with Sibusiso Ntuli, talking about his own journey from where he was like a year ago. As he said, he's a recovering addict and now moving on to a better world, I would think, in terms of where he is. But the plan is that his story may well inspire you anyway, right? So, Sibusiso, I'll just go a step back to say, when the person who advised you and effectively picked you up, right, I mean, that was obviously critical, but at that time, what did you feel when that person taught you new things about just understanding what addiction really means? How did you then believe that person when often, people get told the same story every single day?
So one thing that I found in recovery in the beginning of my journey was God. And God is not conventional religious understanding. I've come to understand that religion is for people who don't want to go to hell, and spirituality is for people who've been there and never want to go back. So in the form of God, the first form I found was the gift of desperation. So the gift of desperation was my bitter ends, and I was sick and tired of this life. And I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Life should not be like this. Life should not be a full strain of consumption, and instant gratification, because I'm not fulfilled. I don't have joy. There must be something greater than this. And he introduced me to something called the spiritual awakening, which is good, orderly direction. What is the next right thing to do? In addiction, you don't even know how your left is determined from your right. So he taught me how to empty my cup. If I could say simply, he literally taught me how to empty my cup and forget what I know.
Okay, so at that time, wonderful that he did. So at the time of your addiction and you lost your family, what were you doing in terms of your business or work career at that point in time? Because then you were addicted, then you went into rehab, so you obviously stopped doing all of that, right?
Yeah. So when I was in rehab, I had an epiphany, and I think this is comical because I'm sure every recovering addict has had the same epiphany. But I decided that I need to be able to make my recovery strong. And in order to make my recovery strong, I would need to cancel my old environments. I'd need to cancel my old friends, and I'd need to cancel my old playthings. And I'd need to hold true to what change I actually want to hold on to. So I created a company called Recover Hub. Now, Recover Hub is to carry the message to the addict who still suffers, to the families that have been affected and afflicted by addiction, and to the communities that have been plagued by this disease of addiction. So what I believe is now my calling and my life purpose is to ensure that people understand that addicts actually have no clue beyond a certain point before they find recovery that they are doing wrong. And you cannot engage with somebody in a humane way, because this person has a disease where his brain is telling him that he is fine, where in all faculties he's destroyed. So in order for our society to go back into a neutral state or a place where, or a position where we can help people, we need to make sure we understand what we are dealing with so that this person can be helped or assisted.
Well, wonderful. What are you doing now? Work, business?
So this is my 6th month. I celebrate 6 months clean as of the 17th of the 17th of this month, and I have recently just been employed at a media company for just anonymity. I'll keep that private for now, but you will see some of the work we're doing. We're doing a lot of stuff where we're recording some of my interviews with people. Next, we have a nice high-profile interview that we're about to do, but everything you can catch it on recoverhub.online.
Okay, so that career is I mean, you want to get into media, but before that, you also had a company called Arise TV, and you made money, and I think you lost some money there, right?
So Arise TV is where I spent money, where we actually trained people from Boston Media House and City Varsity College. I actually made the money with another company in KZN selling sanitizer wipes during COVID. I was actually 2 weeks to getting kicked out and evicted. And my mom literally told me, I'm no more helping you, no more handouts, you got to make your own way. And by the grace of God, or by the strike of God, I made some nice fair share money, but without the acumen and self-discipline and personal accountability, I blew it recklessly.
So fast forward now. I mean, I made the point that you are related to somebody that everybody would be familiar with. Does it matter when we bring up the fact that you're Ivan Khoza's grandson in conversation or not?
I think for a long time it has mattered, because that's also part of a reason why I was so dejected from society, because I dealt with a society that only respected you because of the acclimatization of who your family was or what they could get out of you. And I didn't associate with that. My grandfather has always just been my grandfather to me. He's a respectful human being. He's very family orientated. You know, if anything, I've disappointed him so much. He used to really seek the best out of me and seek the best from me. And for me to have gone the road that I've gone through, there's no way that he could have predetermined that that would be my path. But at the end of the day, I was given life at life's terms. You know, no matter who you are, your children are not exempt from societal ills. At the end of the day, whatever God's portion is for you and whatever purpose and lesson you need to learn in life, who knows, maybe I went through this because of my karma in a previous life, if people believe in that. But I do feel like just because of my decision, it does not reflect anything on who my parents were, who my grandparents were, because I mean, he's not the only one. I come from two sides of greatness. So and my father was a very present and beautiful father until life also caught up with him and he started making bad decisions on his own. So, you know, at the end of the day, I must account for my own actions, and I acted alone. I did the things that I did alone, and I must take responsibility for them, and I must fix them. And for me to build that self up or could well, the consciousness of what I believe self is, I need to redefine it in a way where, because now I have children and I need to create in a way where I can protect them, I can have them accountable to the God that I've now handed them over, because I was in a position not to take care of children. I was not in a position to take care of myself, to love myself. So,
let me leave it with this. Just give me one word, not longer, that best describes how you see yourself in the future, Sibusiso Ntuli.
All right, so this is my message to South Africa. Right now, we're embarking on a very critical time where it is either that we refine ourselves and take responsibility for ourselves. We should stop being separate from one another. This thing of a perpetuated narrative because of what we see on TV should stop. And I believe that we should embrace each other more. We should listen to each other more and stop being so separatist. And I think that whether you're an addict, whether you're an obsessivist, or whether you're a culturalist or a traditionalist or a manist or whatever, a feminist, we need to become more together. We need to become more collective.
I heard that rugby phrase, stronger together. Maybe it applies to what you're just saying as well. Sibusiso Ntuli, thank you for your time. Good to connect with you. Very, very inspiring in terms of your sharing your difficulties and your successes. Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg House.
Quick look at the headlines. The DA has called for an independent entity to be set up to monitor compliance with the Political Party Funding Act. The Minister of Electricity says the main reason why load reduction is more prominent in areas around townships and informal settlements is directly attributed to the high amount of illegal connections. And Sudan's paramilitary rapid support forces have reportedly killed hundreds of people in an assault in the White Nile state. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Bryanston Drive is queuing at River Bridge, Main Road northbound in Lone Hill, slow moving towards Lachlan Road. Witkoppen Road eastbound has heavy traffic through Paulshof in Pretoria. Solomon Mhlangu Drive eastbound has flooding reported towards Garsfontein Road. The N1 southbound queuing towards the R21 highway. The N1 northbound queuing towards Sefako Mahato Drive, and Sefako Mahato Drive has fallen fallen trees reported between Avoset Avenue and Enkeldoorn Avenue. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards the M25 Commercial Highway. The N2 southbound is queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. The N2 northbound has a crash reported before Mgeni Road. Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. Felix Dlamini Road northbound has a crash reported near Crescent Street, and Mgeni Road has a crash reported at Supply Road. In Cape Town, the R300 westbound slow moving towards the M7 Jakes Havel Drive. The N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. On the N2 outbound, a felt fire reported at the R300 highway. The M3 southbound is slow moving at Rhodes Drive, and the M5 northbound queuing towards the N1 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Okay, Tumi, what are we going to talk about? There's so many things. You got football on your mind, eh?
Yeah, there's football action tonight. Kaizer Chiefs hosting SuperSport United as they look to get into the top four of the PSL table. Chiefs are 6th in the league, while Matsatsansa linger in 12th place after 15 matches played. And Chiefs head coach Nazruddin Nabi says that they're still far from having half the team that they dream of, but it feels that they're making progress with their current squad.
Honnêtement, il nous reste énormément de travail à faire. C'est pas de la fausse modestie pour me faire passer.
I would say that we still have a lot of work to do, a long road to go to, and it's not like a false modesty, but we don't believe that we are even half of the team that we dream of for Kaizer Chiefs. But the biggest certainty is that we are in the right direction. The players understand what they need to do, and we feel that they are coming together.
Le process continued. Honestly, the process continued.
Well, kickoff is at 7:30, and it's going to be match number 999 for Coach Gavin Hunt. So the big question is, can SuperSport make it special for him? Only time will tell. There's also other action to look forward to in the Betway Premiership. TS Galaxy hosting Stellenbosch FC, Cape Town City coming up against Chippa United, and Magezi away to Polokwane City. Elsewhere, Celtic will need to end a 15-game winless run in Germany if they are to progress to the next round of the Champions League. They face Bayern Munich tonight in the second leg of the playoffs, and Celtic goalkeeper Kasper Schmeichel says that impossible is nothing.
I think it would be a massive achievement for sure. If you're able to put Bayern out of the Champions League, that would certainly be up there. We're under no illusion it's going to be difficult, but like you said, I have been a part of teams that have done things against the odds, so why not?
Then Atalanta have a goal deficit to overcome at home against Club Brugge. Benfica looking to continue with winning ways against Monaco, and AC Milan desperate for a win against Feyenoord after losing 1-0 in the first leg. In cricket, Proteas woman coach Mandla Mashimbi is looking to impart his vision for the national team as he oversees his first training camp this week in the build-up to the World Cup in India later this year. Mashimbi and his staff are looking to implement their coaching philosophies and approach while putting the players through their paces in intense fitness and skills sessions at the CSA Centre of Excellence in Tshwane, which will run until Friday. The squad consists of 17 players, with the quartet of Marizan Kapp, Nadine de Klerk and Chloe Triron, and Captain Laura Fulvard missing the camp due to their involvement in the ongoing Women's Premier League in India. Then in tennis, the World Anti-Doping Agency has come to the defense of the 3-month ban handed to Yannick Sinner, saying that the case is miles from doping. Sinner tested positive for Costaball in March last year, although he was not suspended by the International Tennis Integrity Agency, where it had appealed to the Court of Arbitration for sport seeking a 2-year ban, but announced on Saturday a shorter suspension had been agreed. Now, the agency says that the scientific feedback that they received was that this could not be a case of intentional doping, including microdosing. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. But before I leave, Ashraf, I must say, obviously everyone is waiting with bated breath, with regards to the issue of Royal AM. As I did say earlier on, PSL is meeting tomorrow with the final decision to be announced on if Royal AM is going to be expelled. But as we've heard reports, it's going to be sold. For how much, we are yet to find out. But for me, I'm thinking about the players. And I'm worried for them because probably right now they're just like, what is going to happen to us, especially with regards to our future.
But if they're going to get sold, then they may not be expelled, right? Because it's not in the PSL's interest to lose one club.
We'll hear tomorrow. We'll hear tomorrow.
Okay. If they get sold immediately, then they have a team. A struggling team to play catch-up, but they have a team.
Yeah.
Then your players will be sorted. I'm being very, very optimistic, of course, right?
Of course.
Yeah. Good way to end. You better say, yesterday we had listeners tweeting to say you didn't say whatever, your goodbyes. So I said you will say twice.
So
and Phineas is like yelling from the other side.
So let me just say the tweet was like, can Dumi say goodbye the way she wants to, please?
No, can I let you? As if it was me, and I said, you forgot, not me.
With that said,
Right now, do one for yesterday as well.
Here
we are. No complaints. Please tweet, okay, that you're okay with that. There we are.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, Jimmy Muyaha, I probably said so before, but for people like yourself, tomorrow is Cup Final Day. It's the budget speech day.
Yeah? Good afternoon, Ashraf. It is UEFA Champions League Cup Final. It is not PSL. It is not the EPL. It is UEFA Champions League.
Oh,
it's one of the busiest days in my calendar. There's a lot of prep that goes into it. There's a lot of insights that have to come out of that because at the end of the day, it's our responsibility within the radio community to be able to convey the message that is conveyed by the Minister of Finance as it affects the country. It affects everything around us. It affects the economy. It affects where monies are allocated, and it's our responsibility to break it down. So we don't take that task lightly at all, and that's why we bring the best of the best on that day, and that's exactly what we're doing tomorrow.
All right, so perhaps a quick, two things. What's on the show today, and if you want to do a quick preview for tomorrow, because you start the show at 2 o'clock tomorrow, I know that, or 10 to 2, in fact, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, so coming up today, we're going to do some budget expectations. We're going to be speaking to some economists and some tax specialists around that. We're going to look at what their expectations might be ahead of tomorrow's speech. We're going to be looking at some results. There were company results from Kumba Iron Ore and DRD Gold. We're going to be speaking to both companies and trying to get a sense of how each performed. And then we're going to also have a property segment because we're still having that on a Tuesday. We're going to be looking at the boom that we're seeing in the rental market in Cape Town or in the Western Cape in general. We're going to be speaking to a property specialist around that and trying to understand what's been driving the rental volumes and the rental amounts from that perspective. But before we get to that, let's do a quick summary of the markets and then I'll give you an indication of what's coming up on the show. Markets had a somewhat positive day, depending on which markets you were looking at. A bit of a mixed bag across international indices. The likes of the ASX in Sydney were down. The Shanghai Composite was down about 1%, but markets in Hong Kong were in the green. The Nikkei in Tokyo was in the green, and European markets by and large were in the green, with the exception of the FTSE, which was down about 7 basis points. If we look at our own local markets, they finished in the green. Industrials leading the charge there, 1.28% in the green. Resources up a fraction, not really worth looking at, but financial sector stocks stocks up about 2/3%. So as a result, the all share 0.75% in the green. The top 40 0.89% in the green. So all in all, a good day for our local markets. Platinum and palladium holding steady above $1,000 a fine ounce there in terms of commodities. Brent crude $75 a fine ounce, and the gold price starting to move again, $2,927 a fine ounce. Quick look at currencies. One US dollar will cost you 18 Rand and 42 cents at the moment. One British pound 23 Rand 25 cents, and 1 euro 19 Rand and 26 cents. One Australian dollar 11 Rand and 70 cents. One Bitcoin $95,000 a Bitcoin, or roughly 1.763 million Rand with the current exchange rate. So markets are looking rather optimistic and rather positive. Of course, tomorrow's budget speech will provide some market reactions that we'll be digging into, and ahead of that, we're going to be doing a bit of a build-up. So we'll be taking over your show, Ashraf. Thank you for allowing us to do that. We're going to be invading the National Pulse in the afternoon for a bit. We're going to do some budget build-up just before 2 o'clock. We'll cross back for the news updates at regular intervals, as we always do. But the budget speech is set to kick off at 2 o'clock. By all accounts, the minister will be on time for that. And as soon as that has been concluded, we will do our first of the 2 budget breakdowns. We'll look at some of the immediate reactions from various stakeholders, economists, some banks. We'll look at various conversations around the tax announcements that might be made, and we'll just get a sense of what's happening there. And then we'll do a second, more detailed breakdown going into the evening session. For the afternoon session, while we are taking over the National Pulse, please feel free to send us those voice notes and those comments with your thoughts and reactions around the budget. We want to get those opinions and those views as well. So we're going to be reacting to the budget, but also getting everybody else's reaction as well. And then later in the evening, we'll be speaking to, amongst others, the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Services, as well as the Deputy Minister of Finance, that is Deputy Minister David Masondo. So he will not be tabling the budget, but we will certainly get his thoughts and reactions, and the reactions of National Treasury on the budget that they would have just delivered.
Perfect. So that means your voice will be heard tomorrow 10 to 2. Mine, for the very first time tomorrow, will be the pulses will start ticking away at 4 o'clock. That's the way the world goes. Enjoy your show tonight, 6 to 7, on the SFM Market Update. Thanks for that, Jimmy. Right, we'll get your calls in a moment. But before that, further thought on the ANC's and the changes within the ANC after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, let's chat now to Dr. Insikelelo Breakfast, who's a political analyst, of course. Right, good to connect with you as always. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. So we're speaking to you because we want to get a quick analysis of those changes within, ANC KZN and ANC Gauteng. So maybe let's start with you giving us an overview of what happened.
Yeah, look, I mean, the logic of the motherboard beats me in terms of how they've identified these 2 provinces as being problematic. Yes, the ANC has been dealt with a blow in a big way. Yes, the ANC has lost ground. But the question is, I mean, how do you respond to that? Because if you respond to that by picking and choosing only 2 PCs, then you are being problematic, because during the time of Zuma, for instance, the ANC used to say, no, it has not done well, then there must be collective response. But now they are reducing their problems to these 2 provinces, because then what about the omission of the national leadership? If you need answerability, surely even themselves they need to account. But anyway, they have disbanded now these 2 structures. So those leaders were elected, but now they've decided to pick and choose the people who are going to be part of a task teams to regain the ground.
So the real decisions happen now. Who's been omitted from those committees? Are there names that stand out?
No, of course. It's TK Nwiza, and Panyaza is going to co-chair basically with Amos Sondo, and also in KZN. The former secretary also has been elbowed. We've seen some people have been brought in, Jeff Khadebe, the previous chairperson, now is going to be a deputy, because the provincial leadership of KZN was accused of not being respectful to elders, traditional leaders, in terms of the setup and the landscape of KZN. So, but I mean, some people say you can't delink this from the upcoming conference of the ANC, because I think the reason why they could not let go of Panyaza is simply because he is popular and he's mass-based. So maybe there would have been a backlash to, get rid of him completely.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to just share in conclusion?
I think the question for me is to whether this restructuring, is it going to bring stability within the party? Because, I mean, to remove people who were elected and to replace them with people who are appointed, where do they get the mandate from? So I think it will escalate the tensions within the party, in my view.
Okay, and let's see who finally gets onto those committees that have been put in place there by the ANC, Gauteng and the ANC KZN. Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, as always, much appreciate your time. Right, time now for me to feel your pulse.
The giants of French rugby, Bordeaux Baclair and Clermont Auvergne, are fighting for a massive victory to cement top 5 positions. This is the top 14 rugby the French way. Catch the huge contest between Bordeaux Union Baclair and Clermont Auvergne on Sunday, 23 February at 10 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, let's get to some of your thoughts. And many people have commented on some of the issues we've raised. Clearly, one of them would be Donald Trump.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf is Katie here at Newcastle. In case of Donald Trump and South Africa, on my side, I'm happy, about that. I think it's a right track for Africa to stand and to have its own currency, because this thing of depending on a dollar, it's also something that is draining Africa, by the way.
But what is draining Africa? You're not very clear in what you mean by it's draining Africa. Isn't that a comment about the Cape Town mayor?
SAFM and listeners, this is Sebo from Togoza. I was enjoying the interview that you interviewed the mayor of Cape Town, Mr. Lewis. I was enjoying that man. You ask the question, he gives you straight answers. No manga, no hiding behind the comrades, no hiding behind the bush. He gives you the straight answers, no manga. I think some of the mayors, especially Mayor of Gauteng, can link to that guy. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, there we are. We should be getting the Mayor of Gauteng, by the way, as a guest on Monday, I think it is. I'm checking out Keys, giving me a thumbs up. Yeah, absolutely. He'll be a guest here on the show on Monday.
Hi, Ashraf and the listeners. The budget speech is useless as soda. Nothing is going to happen. They just preach. Nothing. So now, budget speech, same WhatsApp group. Nothing. They will simply just say yada. No implementation. Bye.
Okay, there we are. And there's more on the budget.
Good afternoon, Ashraf and the listeners. Regarding the budget, I'm worried that they think of, or there's rumours that they may increase VAT. Now, VAT is an absolute imposition, and added to which there's this horrendous jump in the price of Eskom electricity, and the government charges VAT on top of it. So they stand to fleece even more out of the poor consumers. This is Claire from Near George.
Thanks for that, Claire. Let's hope that does not happen. Nobody wants it to happen for sure. For Yizwa in Parktown North, go for it. Hello.
Yes, thanks, Ashraf, for taking my call. You know what? I think instead of us
mourning here about Trump. You're not going to change the man. The man has got his own heart and they know their agenda. So us as Africans, we need to now start standing on our own. One thing, we're not related to them. They are not our relatives. They don't know who created us. They were created by their own God. We have our own source. So they must leave us alone, and we need to grow up and stop mourning.
Okay.
This AGOA, who was it benefiting? Who was benefiting from AGOA? Because we don't know about it, some of us.
Well, if you don't know, you ought to know. But here's what, let's leave it at that. Absolutely everybody, because, I mean, I'll tell you what, even if the majority of farmers are Afrikaners, ultimately it's businesses who benefit. They have to pay taxes. There's VAT, there's actual taxes, they employ people, they spend money. We all benefit from all sorts of deals. And I can say this again, I'm not a fan of America, and you know that. But I'll tell you what, there's no way you can ignore countries and say, we will not do business with anybody anymore. We don't need them at all. We just don't need anybody. Can't happen. Royal AM, remember that story?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, you know what is happening with Royal AM? It's a very painful thing. But this is a lesson. Mam Kize has taught many people what not to do when you've got money. And people like Patrice Motsepe, Ivan Koza, and Keza Mutaung, they're teaching people what to do when you've got money. I thank you.
Well, there you are. What do you do when you have money? What do you do when you don't have money? It's an important lesson, isn't it?
Good day, Ashraf. Ashraf, there's only one thing that I want from the budget speech. Government must find a way to push down the food prices. Because the ordinary men like us are suffering with high food prices. That's coming from Terence.
Well, I think maybe two things. You're right about the price. Things are just so expensive. I agree with you. Linked to that is we need to find growth and really find ways to increase wealth for every one of us.
Hi, Ashraf. My name is Leslie Dima. I'm so impressed by Donald Trump just because Donald Trump is very charismatic and a persuasive leader all over the world. He's trying to make a conflict resolution in Israel and Palestine, and the Ukraine and Russia, and as much as he is involved in the Expropriation Act in South Africa, he's a very good leader.
All right.
As politics is concerned.
Not going to argue with you today, but wow, good leader. You agree with his politics about South Africa, amongst other countries too?
Good day, Ashraf and the listeners. I think we have the solution at our disposal. Let us look at the relationship that we have already started with countries of the BRICS and see what we can get from that. Because economically, we cannot be held at ransom by countries like USA and that. We cannot be beggars. Umalev in my respect.
Well, we can't be beggars, but we need to be practical. That's what I'm saying about certain things.
Hello, Ashraf. Khalid Shumamsela from Mokopan. They are finishing off the ANC. I said it long time ago that ANC is on a self-destruction mode and no one can stop it. Thank you very much.
Self-destruction? Why do you say that? I wonder. More comments? I've asked you about the budget. What do you want to get out of it? Like, what's the most important thing of everything that's going to be said in the budget speech that you're going to be looking for?
Hi, Ashraf. It's Fundiswa in KZN. I would like to see the budget allocated to the health department increased this year, as opposed to it decreasing over the years, which does not make sense because the disease burden seems to be increasing instead of decreasing, and the cost of everything that is required to attend to the health needs of the country are escalating. Thanks, Fundiswa in Durban.
Thanks for that, Fundiswa. There's no question that so many things needs our attention, including that health budget you referred to, and there's just not enough money. I just hope they find a way to have more money. We have to desperately increase growth, economic growth in our country. We absolutely need it like now.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. If these 4 members of the Republican Party can come and talk and say things that are not true, these are just the rumors. And they have not responded to South African delegation to come and talk to them. They just want to make decisions based on lies. they can go ahead and keep their AGOA. We'll find another markets. We'll go to the east.
Well, maybe there you have a point that, if we lose something, you think other markets will just ignore us? I don't think so. I think for business reasons, people are always looking for new customers, isn't it?
Ashraf, Flores here from the beautiful Western Cape. Yeah, one thing that should come out, SANDF budget. Thank you. Have a good show. Bye-bye.
SAMNDF budget is what you want, okay? And there's more, right? Here's another comment. Lots of comments about the budget.
Hello, Ashraf. This is Billy Masha here in Skokoni. I'm surprised that this budget is going to sponsor some private projects, but the private does not sponsor the public projects. I don't know why. Why can't we collaborate the two so that at least we know who's doing what together? Thank you.
Okay, and I'm looking at another comment. In fact, I'm looking at it on Twitter. So, Felix Mosaung, I have to respond to your question. You're saying the DA is one lucky party, your tweet rather. The DA is one lucky party, being constantly punted for by this radio station and media in general, shoved down our throats on a daily. Well, we hear he's back on Monday too. How many mayors and leaders enjoy such free publicity from our public broadcaster? Yeah, no. Well, I'll tell you what, today we had the mayor. We also had two conversations about the African National Congress. And the mayor that's going to be here on Monday is the mayor of Johannesburg, who is not the DA mayor. So you probably heard wrong. I'm sure you're going to apologize when you got that right in terms of your assumptions. I did say aspire. Which countries would you like to aspire? You think South Africa should aspire to?
Hello, Ashraf. It's Dorothy from Durban. I just get so heartsore when people phone in and say we don't need other countries and we don't need that. We do need other countries. We certainly do need America. I mean, just take a list of everything that America provides you on a daily basis. Okay, this platform that we're on, for instance, it's an American. So many things are American. So to say that we don't need America, come on, guys, come on, wake up.
Well, there we are. Okay, and there's another comment on the budget.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I would like to see the minister setting aside funds for the revival of the Department of Public Works so that more people can be put to work and limit tenders, and that there should be funds to reskill all the unemployed graduates so that they can be employed within the Department of Public Works. Bafana Kumalo in Memel.
Thanks for that, Bafana. There's got to be a way to employ these people. You're right. Let me squeeze in two more quick WhatsApps, right? One on the football.
Afternoon, Ashraf, together with the listeners. This is Nabs Etripala. I really have no problem with whatever that can happen to Royal LM. But if they are selling it, I wish Bloemfontein Celtics or people from Bloemfontein can buy it so that it can be Bloemfontein Celtics replacement. We really miss that vibe in the PSN. We really miss it. Thank you very much.
Well, we've spoken about Bloemfontein Celtic before. You can't lose that type of legacy. Here's the last message, and it's a heartwarming one.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I'm so encouraged by the guy you just heard, Sibosi Sontoli. I'm also currently using a user, and I feel motivated by that guy. Thank you.
Tell you what, if you're motivated, that's exactly why we got him. That feature's called Winning. He's winning now, and maybe you'll be winning as well. That's the show, and by listening, you'll be winning as well. So we'll be back tomorrow, not 3 to 6, 4 to 6, because before that, of course, there's an hour and a bit, all of the budget speech and reaction, and then, of course, it's all about the National Pulse. Thanks for listening. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Call for body to monitor party funding and load reduction not race-based. Good evening.
The DA has called for an independent entity to monitor compliance with the Political Party Funding Act. The party is amongst those opposed to a court bid by NGO My Vote Counts to review